Mitchy, I like it, man.
You like that?
Yeah.
I was just telling them about our running in Vegas with the dancers.
Oh, yeah. Big Anthony, what's going on, man?
What's happening with you, man?
Good. What's up, Joe?
What's up, Cregg? Thanks for joining us, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, just to introduce you to Mike. Mike, would you graduate, Mike? You graduate in 97?
98, yeah.
98. I graduated
How's it
in
going,
95.
man?
What's up, Mike?
What's up, Mike?
So we were
What's up, guys?
this is really cool, guys, because, you know, I went to school from 91 to 95. And so right in the heart of when you all played. And you guys, your teams are really kind of what made my passion for CSU football grow. You know, without that, you know, my level of involvement at CSU would not be the same. RamNation would not exist, guaranteed. So this is really cool to have all you guys. I know that Sean Moran's going to be jumping on here in a little bit, and Andre Strode is supposed to join us in a little bit. Other than that, I think we're set, right, Garrett?
Well, I just texted Adrian too, Ross. He was
Adrian. Yeah, Adrian's supposed to jump on too. So they can come on whenever they're free. We'll integrate them into the conversation here, but this could end up going long and crazy if we really wanted it to.
Hey guys, let me interrupt real quick. Sorry, I'm gonna be driving, so I'm gonna mute myself for a minute.
No problem.
And then I'll come back on if you need me to be.
Can you mute your beard?
I
So
cannot
Mitch-
mute my beard, Garrett. Thanks.
Mitchy.
Mitch is at a gun range right now.
Oh, geez.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's in the car. He just got done shooting guns. He's waiting for his pals.
Oh,
So, hey, I think the best way, well, I'd love to just run with it and let you guys tell stories and all that. But I want to introduce you guys because, yes, we are the old Ram family now. But a lot of our users on RamNation are a lot younger now, so I want to make sure that everyone knows who's on here. Bowman, you played from 92 to 96, right?
92 through 96, yep.
Yep.
If you want to call it playing, I was there from 92 through 96.
Well, you started a lot of games, and you started all your games your sophomore year, and then you got hurt.
Yeah, 94, and then got hurt in 95, and then came back kind of partially in 96.
Right. And you live in Denver. You live in Castle Rock, right?
Castle Rock, Colorado, former neighbor of James Cregg. James used to live right across the road from me.
James, you are from Castle. You live in Castle Rock for a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
Awesome. Bowman, are you in sales? Is that what you do?
Yeah, essentially. I'm in financial services. I've done a lot of different things since college, a lot of different things, and but that's where I've landed. So yeah, financial services sales.
Cool. Good. Well, look forward to talking to you, bud. Cregg, so I'm really happy to have you, man. You're coming off of
You bet.
a national championship. Do you got your ring on?
No, I don't. No, we have with that coronavirus, they have not made them yet, so we're waiting for them.
Oh,
So James was an offensive lineman 91 to 95, right? After playing, you were a graduate assistant at CSU for a couple years. You played at, you coached at Colgate in Idaho, and then
Yep.
you got a nice break to go to coach for the Oakland Raiders for a year or two.
Yeah, I was there for 2 years. Yeah.
How'd you get that break?
Just knowing people and being in the right situation.
Then went on to coach at Tennessee, USC, Broncos, the Chargers, and now spent the last 2 years, right, at LSU.
Yep, going on my 3rd season. Yep.
Very cool. So look forward to talking to you more about that. Thanks for
No
being
doubt.
here, brother.
Yeah, you bet.
T. Hill, Thrill Hill, one of my favorite players ever. Led the team in passing and total offense for 3 years in a row. I think the only other player when you played up to that point that had done that was Kelly Stauffer, who was a first-round draft pick. All you guys were recruited by Earl Bruce, which is going to be one of the things we want to talk about. And man, there's a lot of questions I have for you, bro. But hey, thanks for being here. And
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
I love hanging with these dudes anytime.
We know just recently departed CSU. We'll talk about that in a little bit, which is not my favorite news at all. But we'll talk a little bit about what your future plans are and how you feel about all that. Sean Moran's going to be joining us in a little bit. He's running late. He had to work, so he'll be coming on in a little bit. Mitch, he's the Unabomber in the car. Mitch, are you able to talk yet?
Yeah, I can talk. They'll give me directions. So you
Mitch, are you still there, Mitch?
background on where can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we got you back. You froze for a sec.
So you want a little background after college resume? I left. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I know you after college. You played. I think you were picked up by the Panthers, right, as a undrafted free agent. Played. So
basically, during college, though, I hope Adrian's on the line, but there's a reason why I got pigeonholed into long snapping. It's because I was an average linebacker and an average defensive end, and there's guys like Brady and Sean and the lower class and Garrett Sand at linebacker. I didn't get to play, so.
Must be in the underpass.
Bad cell phone signal in Poway, dude.
Yeah, right. Mitch is bumping around somewhere in SoCal, and not the best reception.
Is it getting better at all?
You're back. So
anyway, after college, I got an opportunity to play in the NFL because I was a specialist and bounced around the league for a while. But I got 2 years in Tampa and 1 in Minnesota, and then I played for Houston, Dallas, and Carolina, but only for preseasons and a couple games with those other teams. But then I've been in the real estate and mortgage business for the last 20 years out here in San Diego. And Garrett and I coach a camp together in the summer when a lot of fun doing that. So
Awful.
All right, that's all right, Mitch. Mitch, we'll come back to you.
We missed all that, Mitch.
You're breaking up, but he was also the head of the NFLPA in your area for 10 years, something like that. So we'll come back to you when you're parked and got a better connection there. I think I read that he's also a mortgage broker. So
yeah.
Garrett, you're a high school coach now, right? You doing that as a full-time thing, or is that kind of a part-time gig, or what are you doing?
Oh, totally voluntary part-time thing. Coach high school here at Temecula Valley High. Love it. A lot of fun. My son doesn't play football, but he's in the band there. A lot of fun coaching high school football. James, I ask questions to here and there. Mitch has come up and helped us out. It's a lot of fun to give back like that. And then for work, I have been in nutritional sales for about 17 years now. Love it. A lot of fun. Get to work from home, spend some time with my family. So life is good.
Awesome, man. So we'll talk more about this for sure, but Garrett Sand, you were one of the leading tacklers in the WAC in 1994, and you're associated with the best play in school history. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's the one that everyone remembers, and we'll come back to that. But thanks for organizing all these guys and for being here, bro.
No worries. You had originally asked if I would be on. I said, well, no one's going to know who the heck I am until we get some people that people actually know who they are. So
that's not true. I mean, because you're buddies with Joe Barron, and he called you the number one guy in his heart ever at CSU. And so that kind of got the wheels turning. We're like, we got to get Garrett Sand on. He was the guy who created the spark on the best play in school history. So people know who you are. They just played that game again on Facebook a few weeks ago. So
yeah, that was cool.
You're cemented in history.
I'll take it.
So Andre Strode, we're hoping to have join here in a little bit too. Andre played cornerback from 1990 1994, and got some good questions and some stories that I want to hear from him as well. So I guess we'll throw this out there. You guys were all, I think, except for Adrian, who might not have been, but I think you guys were each recruited by Earl Bruce, weren't you? Every single one of you?
Yeah,
Yep.
let's see. Adrian made
He graduated. I think his senior year was 97. So he's right on the cusp. But the rest of you guys must have been, right? So I was curious to know what was it like to play for him. He was an intense guy. And what did you go through when he was fired? Do you think it was warranted? I will never forget watching the press conference when he was crying. He's banging his fist on the podium. In this day and age, we had Larry Eustace several years back who was a little off the edge there. But I think today a guy like Earl Bruce probably wouldn't have lasted very long. Do you think at that time it was warranted? I mean, what kind of coach was he? I got to hear stories about him.
Mad Backers in the house.
Mad Backers joined us. What's up, Adrian?
What's going on?
Yes. What's up, Adrian?
Yeah, Adrian.
Adrian Ross. So hey, we'll introduce Adrian Ross. We're very excited to have him. Adrian, I don't remember what year this was, but you sent me a DVD of the Mad Backer. Remember your DVD?
Yeah.
So yeah, you were one of my favorite players, and we were talking. You're like, dude, I got this video I made or somebody made. It's the Mad Backer. It was off the wall, but I still have it in my DVD case, which I don't think I've opened.
Classic. That's the classic. Hey, I came up with the little reality TV before the reality TV.
Right. So Adrian played from 1993 and 1997.
Yep.
All right. Yep. So were you recruited by Earl Bruce or Sonny's staff?
Sonny's staff.
Okay.
Sonny's staff.
So you're the only guy. So you're the young guy of the group here. But Adrian was an undrafted free agent signed by the Bengals. He spent 6 years there. Had a great NFL career there. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, bud. We got a lot of questions for you coming up. But going back to what I was just asking the group here, what was it like playing for Earl Bruce, who was fairly intense to say the least?
My first meeting with Coach Bruce, I'm sure you could attest to this too, Kirk. You and I were roommates in college, but the first meeting we had with him was in a team room, and he fell down the steps, all the way down the steps, and he jumps up and says, "Oh, I'm an athlete," and going crazy and all that kind of stuff. But it's just to find that guy, man. He was intense, man. You either loved him or you hated him, and the guys that worked loved him.
I remember that.
I forgot about that. That was solid.
That was like the old student senate room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. He's extremely hard on quarterbacks, as you might imagine. So for the first, I don't know, the whole first year, I don't feel like he even said my name. He just called me whatever my number was, which at that time it was 14. So, and then in the spring I changed to 7. So I heard him saying number 7 all the time. And then I guess after you make a play or two, then he starts calling you by your name. So that's kind of how Earl did you.
G?
I'm sure
he was old school.
About him.
I thought he was awesome. He was old school. He was a lot like my high school coach. So I wasn't shocked by some of his antics and how he treated players. He probably didn't know my name. I was only there 1 year. I was a redshirt freshman. But and you saw a theme with some of the other coaches on that staff. If you were a guy and you were a player and you were an asset and not a liability to the program, he treated you pretty well. If you weren't, you weren't. And it was just that old school mentality of, essentially we're running a business here, and if you can't produce for me, GTFO. That was kind of how he treated a lot of the guys.
So what did that mean for you, Mitch? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I know.
I'm glad Mitch is frozen right now.
Hey, I know this.
Mitch was Scout Team Player of the Year. So he was a guy.
You're
I know
right.
I still
he?
take
That's
my
awesome.
hat off. I still take my hat off if I walk into a building because of Earl. He had me so petrified of having my hat on indoors that I still take my hat off if I walk into a building because of that guy.
Do
So
you
was
still
that
wear
like
a collared shirt to meals?
Yes.
So he was all. It was like a discipline thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he'd be all over you now. I mean,
What did he used to say at meals? Eat all you want, take all you eat.
yeah,
Something like
take
that.
all you want, but eat all you take.
Take all you want, eat all you take. Yeah, I still think of that.
And you had to wait for him to get in the cafeteria first before anybody could eat. He always was
yeah.
the first guy to eat, and you had to walk over there.
No
Is that
doubt.
right?
And you had to have a collared shirt on, so everybody wore the same damn collared shirt every day. You know how stained up it was. Everybody had the same tie, the whole deal.
He said stained up, man. That's
Solid moment too is when he referred to Mitch Palmer as Mike Palmer. That was pretty good.
He didn't know Mitch's name.
Oh, that was okay. All good.
But you remember we always travel with those Silver Grill cinnamon pecan rolls.
Yep.
You guys remember those?
Mhm.
That was his thing. Like we stopped to travel because we didn't have those and waited for him one time. I recall.
Big Matt Rude was sitting at my table one time, and Big Matt says, "Man, these pecan rolls taste the same everywhere they go. They must have the same batter." No, Matt. They bring them with. They put them underneath the bus, dude. The guy Steve Loney goes to get the damn pecan rolls, man.
Ah,
The pecan rolls go deeper than that. The pecan rolls are a whole other story with John Benton when he was in GA, and I don't even want to get into that. The pecan roll thing started a long time ago with Earl Bruce.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Kreger, you tell the story of Earl Bruce making Steve Loney run.
Oh, making him do gassers,
Who
yelling at him.
was it?
Steve Loney. Too bad.
Assistant
Steve
coach.
Loney was the offensive line coach, and I don't know all the details. I know James would know, but Earl Bruce made Steve Loney run and condition because the offensive line got too many penalties or something, James?
Something like that.
Oh gosh.
Never forget it.
You don't want to say it because Steve Loney, I think, is still coaching.
I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, he's retired.
All right.
All right. So when you heard that he was being fired, what happened? What was going through your mind? Were you pissed? Were you okay? Maybe we'll get someone who's a little easier on us, or what was it?
I don't know. For me, I didn't. I guess it didn't matter to me one way or the other because I mean, it's kind of like Kirk said. You know, if you were a guy, you know, he was hard on you, but when he had to, he took care of you as well. But I remember being me and Billy Gonzalez were actually in the press conference. We were in the back of the room at the I believe it was the Hilton Inn, whatever Holiday Inn, whatever it was, across the street from the campus there, and it was kind of surreal because we didn't know what was going on. We just knew there was a press conference, and then he starts going off and pounding the table, talking about he's not going to be snuffed out by Corey Johnson and Al Yates, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. So it was pretty intense. Something I'll never forget. I know Billy probably feels the same way about it, but
James, Garrett,
Yeah.
Kirk.
Yeah, I was just taken back. I was, obviously I was recruited by him, so I had a connection with him, and he brought me there, and I was a little taken back by it all. I was really uncertain where the program was going to go after that. But when Sonny came in, it just was like two opposite ends of the spectrum, and that's what triggered everybody to do what we did.
Yeah.
I was, we were all, the season had ended. We were on Thanksgiving break, essentially. And so I was at home, and, that was like the lead story on ESPN because it was such a good video. Right.
Kirk.
And it was almost kind of cool. I remember thinking this is kind of cool because at least they're talking about CSU. I'd been there 1 year. It was kind of a nondescript year. We weren't a great team or anything. And here it was, the lead story was about Colorado State. It raised a lot of questions, like what's going to happen. I mean, guys that were more established like Garrett and Anthony, maybe they had less questions. But for a redshirt freshman, you thought, where am I going to go? Where am I going to end up? Who's going to be the next guy in? And what impact is that going to have on me?
Yeah. So it seemed like pretty quickly, as Craig said, you guys knew that this was a completely different kind of coach. What were the differences being coached by Sonny? What were some of the qualities, and what made you guys feel like, okay, this is going to be all right? We might our program is in good hands.
I know the first thing I remember him talking about was we got to move out of the dorms as like sophomores. Earl had everybody living in the dorms. Isn't that right, guys? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like, even if you're a senior, you had to live in the dorms. And I was like, whoa, man, I got to live here for 4 years. Okay, whatever, that's cool. But I remember Ludic was like, yeah, you guys can like move off.
Garrett was a horrible roommate, by the way.
Hey, my wife might listen to this. Be good.
All right, well, borrowed my clothes without asking and out of the dirty clothes hamper.
That's true.
All I gotta say.
Right.
And he doesn't own any underwear, by the way.
That's right. I eventually
What?
bought some. I eventually bought some.
Did you play Commando?
Hey, I mean, you know, D-wing, man. What? Oh,
jeez. Corbett D-wing?
Mitch, you can go ahead with the story if you want. If we're really going to go there, if you want.
No, I mean, you guys get the gist of it. He didn't ask. He borrowed everything I owned and asked him for my jeans back that he actually did get out of the dirty clothes.
Yeah. You're lucky he's in a bad area.
Oh, yeah.
He took them
That
off
could have
and
gotten bad.
didn't have any underwear on. You guys can't hear me? Damn.
No, stop talking.
I know for me, it was it was like James said, you know, they were like night and day. They were totally polar opposite coaches in their approach, kind of how, especially for me as a quarterback, how Sonny handled me. I mean, it was really hands off, where Earl was more hands on and more direct, and everything was in your face, which I didn't mind as well. But he just I felt like Sonny just kind of freed us up, because it went from a million rules, like collared shirts and, you know, all that stuff. Hair couldn't come out of the back of your helmet and that stuff, to, you know, 3 rules basically, and just go out and play hard and be on time and stuff like that. So it just simplified everything, and you know, helped us take off from there.
Sonny had a saying, just working for him and you know, coaching on the other side for him and doing all that. He had a saying, you're either a guy or you're not a guy. And he sort of knew who the guys were, and you responded to him. And I know speaking for all the guys, when he got there, he came from Miami, and they were the hottest team going. And we go, oh my God, we got the Miami defensive coordinator. We're going to be like Miami around here. And then he loosened everything up, and we just responded to him. And he treated us like a guy. He treated us like our dad, you know, and took us in and talked to us and had private moments with us and told us who we're going to be, and was real positive. And that's just Sonny Lubick right there. He's a real positive guy. And he made us believe, and he basically brainwashed us that we were really, really good. And that's how we responded. And that's who we became.
James, that's awesome. I for who he is and everything he did for CSU, I think that what stands out to me, that I was in a sales conference meeting this January, and I get a phone call. I'm sitting in this meeting, and I looked out on my phone. It's Sonny Lubick, and I actually step out of the meeting to go answer it, because if Sonny calls, I'm picking up. And he basically said, yeah, Carol Jo and I are digging out some boxes, and we found a little Christmas card from you and Laura, my wife. And I don't know if we ever got back to you, but I just wanted to check in and see how you guys are doing and say hello. And like, that guy is the most genuine, down to earth, caring guy that just knows how to motivate people and make you feel important. So I can imagine why, and that's why CSU as a university has brought him back to be a figure in the business department, and still, even though he was fired how many years ago, to be a figure of the university, because he's someone that everyone cares about and loves and motivates people.
That's awesome, Sand.
Garrett, nice bobblehead, Garrett.
Mine's over there.
In case there's an earthquake here in California, this thing is like
Earthquake proof.
Yes, it's earthquake proof. I got to make sure it's okay. Totally.
So how was that transition year in '93 with Sonny coming in? I know some of your friends, former teammates, they said that, they've said to me that '94 wouldn't have happened if Bruce was there, the magic that happened that season. But '93 could have been big if you weren't learning a new system and Bruce was back. So, what are some of your thoughts about that '93 season and Sonny's first year?
Well, if you'll recall,
first off, it was a brutal schedule. I don't know if you guys remember the schedule, but I think we played Nebraska, and correct me if I'm wrong, Oregon.
Yep.
And this is how we started out the year: Air Force, Nebraska, Oregon, and
Kansas.
What was the
BYU
Kansas.
and Kansas and BYU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, what did we end up with a winning record? Were we 7-5 or 5-7?
No, we were 5-6 that year.
So you were 5-6. You started off, let me see, 1-5. You started off 1-4, and then you reeled off. You won 4 out of the last 6, including the last 3. With
The big game was
Wyoming.
Wyoming
Who
at
were
the
those
end.
4 losses
Yep.
to?
Wyoming
Who were the 4
game.
losses to?
You lost
The Wyoming game at the end of the
You
year
lost to a
was
good San Diego
they were
State,
really good.
Marshall
That's
Fall.
what triggered everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Losses were to Oregon, BYU, Nebraska, Kansas, San Diego State, and Utah.
Yeah. The
So
Wyoming game triggered everything. We blew them out. They were I don't know what they were ranked at the time. Wyoming was really good. We went up there and blew them out. And
Yep.
all of a sudden the team felt that bond, and that carried over into the whole spring and summer. Teams started hanging out with each other, doing stuff together, and we thought we were.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell y'all what happened. And let me step on in there now. You know what I mean?
Adrian.
I was the young walk-on. So I was over there learning behind Garrett Sand and Mitch and all the backers we had, Kareem Ingram and Brian Schneider, so I came in and I remember looking at the roster and I was like, let me see who these linebackers are. And I'm like, God, Brian Schneider, what does it say? He's like 215, 220. I said, damn, I got a chance, because my little light ass. I'm like, hey, this guy's all league, and I'm coming in small as hell. So, but I was traveling, and I was traveling with y'all, and actually they roomed me with Kareem, which was the worst thing ever for a rookie. So serious, man. I was like, I'm thinking I'm about to watch Martin Lawrence or something at night on the road. And he's like, all right, rookie, lights out. I'm like, what? Hey, man, I'm not playing tomorrow, man. I need to watch TV. Like, what you talking about up in here? So it was just great to see when you talk about the transition from the coaches, I got to see the talent that Earl Bruce brought in, and then mixed with the new staff and a new scheme. There was some guys that, were sent into, when they took away the fullback, there was some guys that just had to hop on and change up positions just on the fly, but I'm getting there not knowing that, and I'm hearing about it later, and being where I'm at now, I can just look at how tough that was for some guys. It's like you get some new coaching staffs and you have a new scheme, and you're in a totally different spot that you're trying to learn, or maybe you do learn it. But it's like a lot of the fullbacks went to linebacker. So I was in the room with a lot of those guys. But I was traveling, and I think you guys beat a good Fresno State team. I think Fresno State was ranked. And I think that year you guys went and beat Trent Dilfer and the boys, I think, at home. So it was like, I think, we were starting to roll, and it was cool to see. But I ended up going over to the scout team. I was traveling like the first 4 or 5 games. I went over to the scout team, and they weren't really giving y'all a look. I was out there. I was like, man, this is why we can't. This is why we're going out here and getting whooped on the field. Like sometimes, like y'all aren't it. Like we're not practicing right. This ain't gonna get it done. So I remember running out there, and then all the other scholarship guys started coming off. Because first it was cool for them to leave the walk-ons out there, and they were like, oh man, we're over here on the sideline and we don't have to run after practice. And I was like, hey man, like I'm trying to get better next year. Like I Garrett Sand's big 230, and I'm like I gotta hit this weight room. These backers out here and everybody, this defense ain't playing. Like it's some players you got to put in some work to be able to get to the field.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna get better standing on the sideline. So I started gathering up all the boys, and the scout team just became a whole different monster. And, I had to play the Trev Albert and all the guys that you just spoke on. Y'all went and played against. I'm the guy that they're pointing on that card. Hey, Adrian, line up over here. Line up over here. And I'm like, damn, man. Like, so that's what went down.
Nice.
Well, so Cregg, you mentioned that season finale at YO, and I was there as a student and a fan, and I agree that there seemed like that was a turning point. They were a good team. I think they were 8-3 at that point. And you guys went in there. It was a hostile environment, beat them. And I just remember the celebration afterwards. You kind of could feel like the tides were turning, and that next year was going to be a set up to be something special. So, and that 94 season is something that, all of us that were there at that time, still, it'll always be etched in my mind. There were a lot of good teams. Well, not a lot at CSU, but there were a handful of good teams with bowl wins. But I think that 94 team will always stand out to me as being the coming out party for CSU. And yes, the 90 Freedom Bowl was pretty cool. That was before I was a student there, but really cool win. But what about 94? I got a lot of questions around that 94 season, but what made that team click and what made it so special?
This guy right here.
Who you pointing to? I don't know who's on your left or your right, Bowman.
I'm pointing to Anthony. Yeah, I'm pointing to Anthony on my.
He's the top of my screen.
He's up.
Somebody said it earlier. Somebody said it earlier to me. What the key thing was, we started hanging out that summer before. No, normally you go home in the summer. It's not like it is now, where guys are just in town all the time for the whole summer, basically. In those days, you go home and come back a few weeks before camp and get going. And we all, a lot of us decided we were going to stay up there, and we hung out. We did everything together. We barbecued. We went out together. We hung. I mean, if one guy was getting into a fight, you was going to have to get all of us, because we were together. A lot of us were together. So I thought the fact that the chemistry started to happen when we hung out off the field more, and then on the field, you saw it. I mean, you saw what the magic was. The bond was unbreakable. I mean, I don't know how many games we were behind that year, but we never felt like we were going to lose the game in any of them.
We even had an OJ party when he was being chased. We got together all the time. We weren't doing anything. We all got together. We were hanging out. We worked out in the day and came around each other and at night. Everybody. I'm talking everybody. Not. There wasn't certain groups.
James and Adrian and I, we all worked together that summer, didn't we? With that summer job we did, painting the barn.
Yep.
Yeah.
We painted a barn. We hung out, and we go over to Mitch's house, and and we all hung out. We watched the NBA finals together. We all OJ's deal. We all hung out. Everybody, and that's what started it all, in my opinion. That's how we became really close.
And being sick and tired of losing, just period.
Yes.
Just tired of it. You know what I mean? And we wanted to do something different.
Man, I go back and watch a lot of these old games, and I have a bunch of VHS tapes, and I usually run on the treadmill and pop an old tape in. It's usually from your guys' era. And when you look at like the athleticism and how physical we played and the toughness and how we just took it to teams that were supposed to be bigger and tougher and better than us, there's just a fun brand of football to watch. That 94 season is by far my favorite. So you had a lot of things, though, go your way that year, because you know, when you're in the course of a 12-game season, you know, you had, if I remember, we had San Diego State come to Hughes. They had a 40-yard field goal that they pushed wide right, I think, at the buzzer. That would have been our first loss of the season. Down Wyoming, we're down 24-7. We used a fake punt to Strode, who I was hoping will join us here in a little bit. That kind of sparked a comeback. I think there was a lot
Shout out to John Skladany. Coach Skladany drawing up the fake punt.
Drew up the fake punt.
Right.
Well, how about the
Skladany.
Matt McDougal with the rainbow? I thought that thing would never come down. And then there were replays that said, "Hey, so and so was legal man downfield," so that didn't get called. So that was a big break. Then you had, I think was it the regular season finale? We had Fresno State, and you were down 24-3, and Ray Jacks blocks a punt, takes it to the house, and kind of sparks the comeback there. A lot of things went your way, so some big breaks. But how much is it? Like, this team seemed like it made a lot of its own breaks. It was just a team that figured out how to win. Anybody?
It's amazing how when you think about how good teams kind of, like you said, they make their breaks, right? It was always my what I recall about that year was there was always a spark that needed to happen, and in different games, and it was the different unit. Seemed like every week, you know, it was the special teams against Wyoming, special teams against Fresno. It was the offense against New Mexico. You know, it was the defense probably most of the other times in the year. You know, whatever that play that needed to happen, somebody stepped up and made the play and sparked it. And that's all we really needed was for it to get started. And then, I mean, I was just looking at that Wyoming game. It's amazing how fast we were down 24-7.
24-7, late in the third.
Yeah, and after that fake punt to Strode, within probably 10 or 15 minutes of actual minutes, it was already 24-21, like that quick, because we went down and scored a couple plays after that. Then they fumbled the kick, and we scored maybe 2 plays after that. I mean, it just was amazing how throughout that whole year, whatever sparked it, then we had ourselves in line to do what we had to do. My wife always said to me that year, she's like, "Why didn't you guys just go and blow somebody out?" You know, I'm like, we wanted to, but we just never. We would get in games and couldn't figure out quite what we need to do, and once we figured it out, good luck to you.
Well,
I think we blew out UTEP though.
Like we did every year.
The WAC was really good that year, though. Air Force was 8-4, BYU was 10-3. UTEP sucked as always. Utah was 10-2, and Wyoming was 500. So there were 3 teams I think that were ranked in the top 25 that year. So it wasn't like it was just a cakewalk. So yeah. But that, I think that's what made the year so special was a lot of the drama. Like even going to New Mexico, who was okay at that time, they were giving teams fits, and they actually beat Utah to kind of get us back in the hunt for the WAC championship.
Oh, was that the Stony Case game?
Stony Case.
That was Stony Case.
Yeah.
They tried to get with us.
Case.
They tried to get with us on that one. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Man, that was a monster game.
So I want to kind of walk through that season a little bit, because I'm sure, except for Mike, who's on the call, he refutes that he thinks it's the second best season ever behind '97. Adrian.
I was going to ask that to Adrian at the end.
No, sir, Mike.
Since he played on both of them, but we'll wait.
You don't have 97 unless you have 94.
That's right.
You're
That's
right.
T. Hill.
Completely correct. You don't have 97 without 94.
That's right.
So walking through that season a little bit, there were so many big games, but you play Air Force in the opener, which is strange. Like today, you would never play a conference game in the season opener. But you win that game. That I think Greg Myers had a couple picks in that game, which were big. Then you beat BYU at home. They were 10-3 that year.
Wait. So was that Air Force score? Was that 9-7?
No,
that one was
not that year. That year
35
was
to 20.
Oh, that was
34-21.
like
34-21,
one of them
right,
years,
T-Hill.
it was like
That was
okay,
that was my
34-21,
sophomore
okay.
year. I believe.
Yeah, sophomore year it was 8-5. It was 8-5.
8-5.
Adrian.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Okay.
So
Sorry about that.
yeah,
Baseball
so
score.
right. That was like the Louisville 7-2 game in what year was that? 2000, 2001, something like that. Anyway, so you beat Air Force. That was a nice opening win. And then you beat Utah State, who wasn't very good, but BYU comes to town. They went 10-3 that year. They're good as always.
It was there.
Oh, we went there.
You guys,
there.
oh, it was, yeah, that's right. You went to Provo.
Yeah.
And we hadn't beaten BYU in 7 years, and
Yep.
we'd only beaten them one time in 20 years. So I think Greg Myers had a couple picks in that one, or at least one that cinched the win. I'm pretty sure of that because I remember him catching it and like, we win this game. And it was a huge win. And that, I think for me, that's when I knew the season could be special. Was that kind of the same with you guys? Beating those guys? Everyone hates it, right?
Yeah, Joel, do you have – I think there was some stat that CSU hadn't won in Provo since either the early 80s or late 70s. Is that accurate?
Well, we had
something like
one,
that. I don't know if you can look that up, but
we had
it
one
had been
win in
forever.
20 years. So it's for how I could look it up. It'll take me a while to look, but I bet you it was. I mean, I bet you we can count on one hand the number of total wins in CSU history in Provo. I think
For me, that was the game that changed everything, like you said, and it was watching, taking cues, and obviously a defensive guy, but taking cues from Garrett and Brady and Sean and Greg Myers, and specific to Brady and Sean, because remember, they were a passing team when not everybody was a passing team. BYU was.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember like Brady and Sean played something like 90 snaps in that game, and it was incredibly hot, and those two guys just would not stop, man. It was amazing. Watching the effort they put forth. And, for me, I can't speak for everyone, but for where we were coming from, like 92, 93, there was not a lot of positive feelings about CSU. I mean, James, you probably remember the story, and Garrett, I think you would, but like a professor on campus cracking jokes about us. I don't know if you remember that one, and Brady Smith getting really pissed off in that classroom. And so, I mean, I always assumed we should beat Air Force, but once we beat BYU, that kind of opened my eyes up to like, man, this is an amazing team.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when we went to Provo, that what's the name? Lavelle Edwards was after his 200th victory as a coach. And that's all they talked about in the paper. I remember reading the paper, and it was, how they were expecting him to get his 200th victory. And we kind of made it a point. I know some of us in the hotels like, nah, it ain't getting none of that. None of that's happening. And when you really look at that game, that was our defense's. I think that was their coming out party, because the quarterback, I believe his name was Walsh, they flat out assaulted him. I mean, Hodge and all those guys up front. I mean, every time you looked up, he was getting hit. And at the end of the game, I literally went over to him and kind of asked him, "Hey, are you all right?" Because I never seen somebody get battered like that. And we were just rushing forward most of the time, so they got after him.
The Anthony, or you guys remember too, the best hit of that game on that quarterback was actually from Strode.
Right.
Strode.
Oh yeah.
Strode
blitz.
Bent that guy's backwards, but that was actually a key too, for sure. I mean, you guys know, if you can rush four guys and get pressure on the quarterback, which we were doing, and then once in a while you blitz someone like Andre or blitz a linebacker, that creates some serious problems for those guys. But I mean, Brady and Sean and Hodge and all those guys, the front line, they were all over that guy.
Devon Hawkins.
That was awesome.
Devon
Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Yep.
I think that speaks on the value that when Sonny came and what he incurred, schemed up. I think how they talked later, all the way to my last year, where they talked about Sonny brought defense to the WAC, and I think that the attitude that we had just landed in Provo. And I just remember team dinner and just, it was like, you know, the leadership, what you guys had brought, you guys made it be like where the youngsters, we had to be accountable for y'all's mission. You know, like I remember just getting there during the summer because y'all stayed there and I was going home, you know. And so I came back and I had gained 15, 18 pounds. And I remember Ray and him, it was almost like y'all were checking everybody like, okay, Ross looks like he's ready to play. All right. You know, like he's good, you know, because we all stayed here, you know. And it was just, it was more what we went into those games with. And we knew that there were going to be battles, but, you know, I think that BYU game especially, you know, on both sides, like you went up top to Paul Turner, you were throwing bombs. It was like, I remember, I think they threw a flag on you in the, I think you were celebrating. And it was like the weekend. I mean, it was a tight
shooter.
Yeah, and they threw a flag.
I love the A-Hill 6-shooter. I think solid.
You and Booker. Booker would come out of the tunnel doing the 6-shooter all the time.
I think he's still doing it.
Yeah, he probably is.
Every time he does a shot of Patron.
All right, so that's good stuff, guys. So after BYU, you slip by San Diego State. I mentioned the missed field goal at the buzzer. Then you go to New Mexico. Stoney Case gave you a run for your money, but you pull that game out. And that sets up probably the biggest game in CSU history for what it meant and how it catapulted the program. But you play at Tucson, Arizona. The Wildcats were ranked number 6 in the country at the time, and everyone knows Sports Illustrated had them as their preseason number 1. CSU just replayed this on Facebook just a few weeks ago, and they had Sonny on, which is really cool. And he had that. He was talking about the day, the trip, the game, and all his emotions during the game. And he said that he was making those aw shucks kind of comments. I just hope we can stay healthy and make it close. But he kept saying he kept saying how he looked at the kids, calls them kids. He looked at his team, his players, and he was like, I just kept looking in their eyes, and they all felt like they could win. And meanwhile, I'm just trying to hope that we can stay healthy and keep it close. What truly was the mindset of you guys as you go down? You probably heard all the hype about Arizona. There wasn't any such thing as a Power 5 versus G5 at that time, but you're playing at a Pac-10 school. Did you guys think that you could win truly? Did you have that confidence? Was that your true expectation? And what was that day like?
Well, I know for me, and I'm just going to speak about, I never stepped on a field, a court, or whatever, and not thought I was going to win. So, and I don't care who we're playing. We could be playing the Harlem Globetrotters in basketball or the 98 Bulls. I don't care. I mean, I feel like we're going to win. So that's my mindset going in. And I think if you ask to a man, we all felt that way. And it was just because what we had built to that point, we've established ourselves now. And now, all those games in the past that we've lost close, and, everybody says how good we could be and all that. We were past that at the end of '93 when we beat Wyoming. We had already decided this is our year. We're getting it done. And Ray Jackson guaranteed it after that game. And we all knew that we got to make that stand up. And we went out there, man, and there was just a determination that, I've, as either a player or a coach, I haven't found that combination of things that we had in that '94 year since. And I don't care. I've been trying to get back to that in anything I do, because there's nothing like being on a team like that, and where you just know. You just know. I mean, there's all those examples that you just gave, all those other games, we just knew we were going to win. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what the word is. It's chemistry. It's the glue. We just bonded, but it's something about it when you just know what's going to happen and you're not going to be denied no matter what.
So since you're talking, what did was it Dave Lay? Was he the offensive coordinator at the time? Anthony?
Say it again.
Who was it? Was Dave Lay the offensive coordinator?
Yes.
Okay, so what did you guys see in the Desert Swarm defense to get Scholl so wide open twice? Yeah. Like, did you guys notice something that week going in, or?
Yeah, I remember the game plan for that game was because they had literally, if you broke down the yards per carry that year or up to that point in the season, it was like centimeters. I remember reading an article. They were giving up centimeters per carry. It was ridiculous. And so Dave Lay's thought was, we can't just drop back every time. I'd get killed back there, And so his thought was, we got to hammer some runs in there and keep them honest, and then play action and do what we do, And so we kept hammering runs in there, and then we would pop one here or there. EJ would get some good yards and get some solid gains. And then, our play action came into play, and I don't know what they did with the play action. Like they dropped so many tight ends. They dropped the backside tight end on a couple, and once I break contain, now there's another threat, right? So now somebody's got to come up and come to me, and then that frees somebody else up. So
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Tell the people, okay, the guy out there from Northern California, from Sacramento, where I'm from, was Teddy Bruschi. He has the college record of sacks, right? So he's the guy from where I'm from, right? Yeah. Tell him what the Rams and what the game plan was to stop Teddy Bruschi. That was the defense. Let's tell it, Mr. Super Bowl champ and all that. He wasn't the Sacramento boy that had a sack that day.
Right. Right. I mean, we just it was the competitor in you has got to say, I don't care who's out there, right? These guys were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And so if anything, that gives you more, that makes you want to do it even more, right? Like if we can beat these guys, who else on our schedule can we, who else can't we beat? You know what I mean? So just the mindset was just, hey man, we attacking these guys. I mean, it's, I learned a long time ago playing in the park, basketball. You go in there with when you're a young teenager and you got to go up against those grown men, you got to go hard. If you don't go strong, it's going to be a problem. So for respect, you got to go take it.
Who just joined us? Sean Moran. Holy crap. Sean, thanks for joining us, man.
Right on time for the Arizona game, right?
Sean, I muted you. Hold on a second. Let me unmute you. Hey, man, thanks for coming right off of your work shift and joining us to talk about CSU. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, not a problem. It's my pleasure. Happy to be with you guys.
So we got Adrian, Mitch Palmer, Garrett Sand, Kirk Bowman, Anthony Hill. James Cregg is actually, he had to step away for a few minutes to talk to a recruit. He's a big college football coach now, but
oh yeah.
Yeah. So, are you still are you an Aurora firefighter?
Yes, sir. I've been doing that for about 12 years now, and love it to death. I just had an overtime shift that I had to work about 8 hours. So I just got off. I'm on my way home still from the firehouse.
Well, it's perfect timing because we just started talking about the '94 season, and right when you dialed in, we're talking about the Arizona game, which is what everyone will remember. All CSU fans will remember as one of the biggest wins in school history. I was in Fort Collins that night, so was Mike, and we have stories about how Fort Collins was it blew up. I mean, we were on Elizabeth Street. We were watching at a house just north of Potts, or just west of Potts.
Yep.
And once that game ended, we had a huge dog pile in the living room. And we went out. We're like, we got to go out on the town. This is a win that we may never see again. And we just head our way to Potts, just thinking like that's where people are going to be. And there were thousands and thousands of people climbing on light poles, girls taking their tops off. It was the most epic night. I can't decide what would have been better to actually be in Tucson as a fan or to be on Elizabeth Street that night. But so I want to go back to that moment. Garrett, thanks again for setting all this up. You are the man. But you basically timed the snap, right? It was you were on a blitz and you kind of crept up and you timed the snap. You blew up the quarterback before he could even hand off the ball, and the ball just bounced really nice and soft. And Sean picked it up and ran to the end zone. Can you guys tell me can you just break down that play for all of us?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, all I know is that if you guys watched the tape of the game that was shown on the internet the other day on the CSU Rams Facebook Live, they showed the game, and I remember Garrett had 2 or 3 of those plays where he came up the middle and came free on a blitz, and Garrett just hit the shit out of the quarterback. Excuse my language, but he really knocked the hell out of the quarterback, and so they're lucky that didn't happen 2 or 3 times. But Garrett had a hell of a day, and he made that blitz up the middle, and sure as hell the quarterback dropped the ball, and I was just there to pick it up and go with it. So, and luckily it hopped up right at the right time when I was going down to scoop it up, and 76 yards later we're in the end zone. So. Yeah, it was a fun day, and yeah, it'll be remembered in the annals of CSU history for a long time. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out too to the offensive guys. Shit, without Anthony Hill and without Justin Scholl and all those offensive linemen between Mark Donnelly and Pat Meyer and all those guys that we had up front, and Brandon Evans and James Cregg and all those guys, man, that we all played very, very well that day. And I think the only mistake that we made all day was Dave Napier might have missed a field goal or something. I think that might have been our only mistake of the day. But
Sonny probably blamed it on the kicker. Doesn't ever call him by name. So Garrett, what would have happened if that play was if that snap count was on 2?
Oh, I'm in a lot of trouble with Coach Lubick and Coach Kirk. Now like after the game, Schneider. You guys, first of all, Brian Schneider, I learned so much from him. He was such a good linebacker there and like such a smart guy. Adrian, you were talking about him earlier, like wasn't the biggest guy, but what a good player. I kind of started to learn that stuff from Schneider, just like pacing the line of scrimmage and like trying to time blitz. But after that game, they were like, hey, you actually blitzed the wrong gap. And I was like, how? I don't get it. Like, how's that possible? They're like, no, you should have gone to this C gap. And I was watching the game on the Facebook thing the other night. I'm like, there's no other gap to go through. I don't get it. So I maybe I did blitz the wrong gap. I don't know. But the reason I mean, Sean, and Brady and Kirk and Devon and Steve Hodge, I mean, those guys were honestly so dominant and so good that the O-line had to account for those guys. So if you blitz one linebacker, he can get free, and that's pretty much what happened. So,
Sean, so I worked for the Collegian at that time, and I wrote a column afterwards, and I basically broke down that play, and I'm sure everyone on this call, I'm sure remembers, and I'm sure a lot of the Ram fans remember, but you upchucked pretty hard on the sideline after that touchdown. And I actually referenced it. I talked about it in my column, and that, I don't know why, but that column resonated with people that read it. And the Society of Professional Journalists gave me some sort of award for, I don't remember what it was for, but so I thank you for that. But that play will forever be etched in every Ram fan's memory that was alive at that time. And I think if you're gonna rank all-time plays in CSU history, that is up there in the top 5, no doubt.
So,
yeah, without
Sean,
question, I think. What's that?
Don, did the thought, was it going through your head? Don't trip, don't trip.
Yeah, no, that was all going through my head. It was don't trip, and I kept looking back to see if somebody was going to catch me. And you're right, it was the 12th play of the drive, and so having to run 76 yards after playing 12 hard plays on defense was really taxing for me. I ran off the sideline and puked on Coach. I think it was on Coach Ellers. So he was trying to high five me, and I puked all over his shirt.
If it was Ellers, I'm all right with that.
Oh, Ellers.
Hey. And then, so I'm backing up Sean and Brady. So I'm backing Sean and Brady up. And Sean comes over to me and goes, hey, you're going to have to go in. You're going to have to go in because now we got to go right back out on defense. And I'm like, what? Hey, man. Sean was like, you got to go. Hey, what happened to the 110 test, Sean? Man, you should have been in shape for that one, man. You only went to 76, 12 plays.
So that game, I mean, we could talk about that game and break it down. That could be its own episode, but that game tore down Fort Collins. You guys are now 6-0. We're ranked in the teens, high teens, I think at the time. And everything seems like it's in it's setting up for us. And all of a sudden, we have Utah coming to town, who is also undefeated. And it was like, if it was in this day and age, it would have been a ESPN College Game Day type of matchup. Where
was it the precursor to Game Day there? Because it was the ABC National Game of the Day.
It was the game of the week. Brent Musburger.
Yeah. We had Brent Musburger. Yep. And it was, and that was the biggest crowd in Hughes Stadium history. Like you said, ABC televised it.
DSU history.
What? Yeah, for sure. DSU history. Yep. 40, yeah, even at the new stadium. You're right.
Yep.
You're right. So, as a defense, you defensive guys, Kirk, Mitch, sort of, Adrian, and Sean. So that team, that Utah team, man, they were good. They were good, and for some reason, we could not stop them. What do you remember about that team, that day, how it unfolded, and we'll get into like the way that we all felt after the game was over. But just curious as to why couldn't we stop, come up with the big stop that we needed in that game? Garrett, Kirk, Sean.
Go ahead, Kirk.
Chris Fuamatu-Ma'afala, wasn't he on that team? Like a 250-pound running back. I mean, that was a big part of it. Dyson Brothers. Matt Wells, the quarterback, who went on and has had a good coaching career. So well-coached team. A lot of reasons.
Yeah,
but it was close. It was close. It came down to the end.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sean. They had a number of first-round draft picks. They had Luther Ellis was a defensive tackle who went first round to the Lions.
Yep.
They set a really good team, and they had our number that day for some reason. And we couldn't beat Utah back in the day. We didn't beat them my first 3 years there. And finally, we got the monkey off our back my senior year. We beat them, but they got us our junior year, which was our best year. And yeah, they just outplayed us that day.
Do you guys remember the atmosphere that day?
It was awesome.
Nuts.
Incredible.
It was nuts. I mean, it was, you normally you go from early 90s when I go out and warm up and I can hear conversations up in the stands because there's so few to, both end zones kind of packed with people, which had never been done before, especially the north end zone, before they put the bleachers in down there. It was a totally different feel. You knew it was huge, and I didn't help our defense out very much that day. I gave them 14 points. So we couldn't get our footing as far as what I was saying about our season. We always knew we just needed that one play, and in that game, we just kept knocking at the door. We got behind by, I think, at least about 14, 16 points, and fought our way back all the way, get it down to 7, and then we had that last drive. And you couldn't tell me we weren't going to score. I mean, I just knew it. and then of course they pick it off in the end zone and run it all the way back, and you know, instead of us tying it, they win by 14. So, you know, very devastating. At that time, I thought that was the end of the world. Like, you know, I mean, I just really thought we're gonna go undefeated this year, and now it's just totally blown. And thank goodness for Air Force.
Do you still have nightmares about Harold Lusk?
Oh, I mean, they did a couple things to me that they hadn't shown before, that I give them credit for, that kind of got them in position to where they were while they had that big lead. And, you know, by the time we kind of figured out what was going on, we just couldn't make that last play to get the game tied up. But you know damn well we would have gone for 2 if we'd have scored that touchdown right there, because we had already talked about going for 2.
Yeah, so for our listeners, CSU was driving. We were down 7. Anthony throws a tight ball into the end zone with, I don't know, 30 seconds left.
Not even.
Not even. Yeah, it's at the end of it. It's a desperation play, and Harold Lusk picks it off. I will never forget him taking it 100 yards the other way for a touchdown, and he's strutting into the end zone. And then the Utah band is playing the Death Star March.
How sick of you guys were of that song by the end of that day?
Oh.
So sick of it. So sick of it.
I don't think I watched Star Wars for another decade.
I still have never watched it again. I won't watch any of the new crap because of that.
You know what? You know what was one crazy thing about that game too that I forgot about, and is there were 2 blocked punts that game. They blocked our punt, then we blocked their punt. And there's a statistic like when you get your punt blocked, your chances of winning a football game are decreased big time. And the fact that that's what made that game, to me, like looking back, is so crazy. There was just it was a wild game. It was back and forth.
I think there was 3 block punts.
Really?
I blocked one of them.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian blocked one.
We blocked two of their punts that game?
Coach wasn't putting me in. What? Yeah, I think Jim Dietrich blocked the other one.
And didn't somebody muff a punt as well? I mean, it was just crazy.
Skladany magic.
Skladany magic.
Hey, and then one other thing that I'll say about that game is that where we weren't prepared, and I remember him talking about it in the meeting, Utah ran that damn swinging gate. And remember,
that's right.
We kind of went over it, but Coach was like, if they do it, just call timeout. And they did it. And we called timeout, and they still came out and ran it and did it. So that was like, remember, like they would do that against everybody. They come out and that swinging gate and have something.
Yes.
So, man, that game that had a major impact on me, and I know that Anthony, you said that it felt like everything was over after that, but amazingly, New Mexico beats them 2 weeks later, and then Air Force beats them the week after that, and all of a sudden the title is there for our taking, and Wyo comes to town for an ESPN night game. It's probably like an 8 o'clock kickoff, and students were rocking. The place was packed. They brought in those extra bleachers for the south end zone, and that place was hopping. And we come out, and Wyoming takes it to us a little bit. We're down 24-7, and Skladany calls the fake punt, and it's late in the third. And I remember he sends out Matt McDougall. I'm like, oh my God, we're punting, but we were on our own 30-something yard line. I'm like, we can't really go for it. And we fake punt, and Matt McDougall throws his rainbow. Andre Strode, somehow no one bats it down, and Strode catches it. We got the first down, and then Anthony, you guys drive down the field, score a touchdown, and I think we scored 28 unanswered points to close the game. So all of a sudden we're back, and I don't know. I'd love to hear like your guys' recollection of that night, because that was a weird, crazy night. With remember the students started like swarming down the field, swarming down the hill. They were jumping over the east stands, and they start running on the field like every time the ball went dead in the final 30 seconds, and it happened like 5 times. ESPN was ripping us, but that was a really weird night. What do you guys remember?
I remember sitting on the bench. About 3 or 4 different times, students came and sat next to me and were just chopping it up with me because, you can't.
They're sitting with you on the team bench?
Oh yeah, because people were just running on the field. It was towards the end of the game when all those people would run out on the field. They couldn't, the security would go chase those guys, and then other guys would just come run down on the sideline. So I sat and chopped it up with a couple CSU fans that day on the bench. That was pretty weird.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you remember, bud?
That's a tough one because that was a pretty crazy game. But I remember those snaps, talking about nerve-wracking. Those are the ones that make you remember those kind of games. But that was fun, some good times.
Sean, what do you remember about that night?
Well, all I remember is when Andre Strode caught that fake punt, I was standing right next to him, and because I was on the punt team. And when Matt and I was playing guard. I'm not playing wideout. I'm playing guard. And so on the punt team, I was running down there trying to make a tackle. I missed the sign that we were doing a fake punt, and I ran down like it was a normal punt. All of a sudden, I turned around, and I'm actually farther down the field than Andre was, because Andre had to go through a double team to get up the field. And here we go. Andre catches the ball, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm downfield early.
Wow.
And luckily, the rest didn't see it. But
Yep.
that's what I remember about that night. That was crazy, and the fans were going ape shit, really, and it was a lot of fun.
I think what you meant to say was you were faster than Strode, and that's why you got down there.
That's exactly. Yeah, I had him by 100 pounds, and I was faster than him.
I also remember being carried off the field by fans after that game. There was so many people on the field, I couldn't get back to the locker room.
Goalposts, Anthony Hill.
Oh, nice.
Look at that picture.
That's awesome.
Mike Rowe showing the picture of Anthony Hill getting carried
Joel,
off.
I won't name names, but I remember one of our less well socially adjusted linebackers not doing real well with having all those people around, and I think he punched a couple of the students.
Garrett?
And I remember sitting there watching. I'm not saying who, but I remember watching it, and this dude was teeing off on this guy's face.
So
he
it had to
didn't
be
like having all the
the
crowd
man in
around
the
him.
middle, Kareem Ingram or Kenya Ragsdale. No, he didn't like being. It was claustrophobic almost. So
Yeah, claustrophobic, or what's it called when you don't like crowds? He just didn't do well with having a lot of people around him, kind of pulling on him and tugging on him.
just had to get out.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
I don't remember seeing that. That's a new one.
I didn't hear about that till just now, but that's interesting. Somehow I know who it is.
Oh boy.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, I want to text Garrett full details.
But I do remember I do remember after the Utah game when we lost. I remember we had a bye, because I remember thinking, man, we got to get back on the field. Like, how are we going to sit through a bye week, before we get back at it? But by the time we got back to the field, like you said, Utah had lost twice because they lost the week before during the bye, and then they lost earlier that day when we played Wyoming. So we were already back in first place by the time we played again. So the juices were back flowing. We knew what it was. We knew what time it was. We had to go get it.
Right. So you win that game. It seems like it's destiny. You're going to win the conference championship. Then you got to go to Fresno. And I've been looking for a game tape of this game forever, because I remember watching it live in.
It was on Prime.
It was on Prime. I think it was Drew Goodman. Probably, yeah. And probably Jim Ryan was the color guy.
Adrian, you got all the old video. You got to have this.
Right.
If someone has it, I will pay good money for it. But so we go.
I think
we go
I
to
have it
Fresno.
somewhere.
We had a weird non-conference game in between that Wyoming game and then Fresno. It was Arkansas State. So you blew them out. Then you go to Fresno, and it was almost like a letdown. And we were down 24-3, and it was like, we're gonna lose this game. Like this is our storybook season, and everything just broke right. We had a miracle that New Mexico beat Utah, then Air Force beat Utah. We had a miracle comeback against Wyoming, and now we're gonna lose to Fresno on the road, who was average that year. I think they finished with a losing record. We're down 24-3. Ray Jackson blocks a punt, takes it to the house, and that was kind of like our fake punt to Andre Strode in the Wyoming game that kind of turned everything around, and you guys made a miraculous comeback, beat them 44-42 or something like that. And all of a sudden we win the WAC championship. Was that our first WAC championship in history, I think?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So we finished 10-1. We go to the Holiday Bowl and we play vaunted Michigan. And Michigan, man,
Yep.
they were 7-4 at the time, which was misleading. They had a tough schedule, but they had Todd Collins at quarterback, Tyrone Wheatley and Tim Biakabatug at running back. You had Mercury Hayes and Amani Toomer at receiver, and Jay Reyersmara. All those guys were NFL guys. And then you had Ty Law and Charles Woodson on the defensive side. That team was loaded, and they finished
7 NFL guys.
Yeah, and they finished 12th in the polls. What do you remember about that game?
Pass interference.
Yeah, there was like 2 of them against Eric Olson. I don't know what he was doing that night. And we had 4 turnovers. We had a blocked punt. So it wasn't like that team was a lot better than us, but we just didn't have our best game. Can you take us through that game, any of you guys?
My assessment of that game was we couldn't run the ball very much. They were so big up front that they just kind of clogged it up. So the run game was not particularly good. And so I just felt like their size just was we weren't ready for that. Maybe the 90, by the time we got to the 95, 97 team, when we were got a little bit more girth to us, I think we could have handled that a little bit better. But for where we were, skill-wise, we could match up with them all day, and you saw it. I mean, I think we, when there were breakdowns, then we get a turnover and put us in a bad spot. I mean, our defense only gave up 24 points. They gave up 24 points in that game, and we were right there the whole way. And like you said, couple of offensive pass interferences that take away two scores, and there's the difference right there.
Yeah, 4 turnovers. You were crushed on one play, caused a fumble. And Paul Turner, who my friends and I call the lounge lizard to this day, because one time during a game, he was just like laying on the sidelines, just enjoying like a summer day. He drops a touchdown pass right off of his chest in the third quarter, I think it was. So that was just tough. I think we were doomed when the parachuter carrying the CSU flag.
Oh yeah.
Like it didn't open properly, and he crashed hard. I think he actually was paralyzed.
The guy's paralyzed.
So on a lighter note about that game, so I was standing by Urban Meyer when Eric Olson batted Ty Law in the back with his cast and then caught the ball. And to this day, Eric claims it was not pass interference. He ended up marrying my sister, so I still see him all the time. They're divorced now, but I've heard many times that was not pass interference. And I also heard Urban Meyer, after that play happened, screaming at Eric that like I've never heard before. It was pretty awesome.
So Sean, you and Anthony had this picture. I still remember it. You guys are carrying the participant trophy after the game on the sidelines, and you both look so despondent. Like you were like, "Ugh, God." I know that
we refer to it as we refer to it as the losers trophy. So we don't like participants trophy, whatever you want to call it. We call it the losers trophy because that's what it is.
Yeah,
And so we weren't very happy to be carrying it, but
yeah.
what are you going to do?
I totally understand that, and especially right after the game. But at what point did you guys look at that season and say, you know what, this is pretty special, and realize what it meant to the university?
I know for me, when we beat Arizona down there, and typically we fly back after the game. That night, for some reason we stayed in Arizona overnight, and so I remember Sonny coming to after the game, coming to the locker room saying no curfew, and so a lot of guys just showed up at 6 a.m. when the bus was leaving the next morning, that having partied all night, and that's including coaches and administrators too. Just for the record.
Yeah, I heard a certain CSU president got after
people,
it a bit that night.
People got after it that night, believe it. But so when we got back to Fort Collins the next day on Sunday, the amazing thing, we never came back to any type of fanfare or any fan presence. We pull up into Moby, and the parking lot's packed. Full of people. I mean, this is like, I don't know, it must have been around noon or something, maybe 1 the next day. And I was like, wow. And then you start hearing all the stories about, like you said, Campus West the night before was just nuts at pots and everything. So once you start hearing all that, you're like, man, this is like, we just beat the preseason #1 team in the country. We're pretty good. We know it. And like, the sky's the limit. I don't think we're gonna lose a game. That's why the Utah game was so devastating, because I thought we were gonna run the table.
Yep.
Yeah, after that Arizona game, I think we like Anthony said, I think we knew that we were gonna have the ability to run the table, because Utah was the toughest opponent that we faced, besides Arizona that year, and the fact that we went down to Arizona and beat them in their house, we had a pretty good feeling about coming back home and playing Utah. So for what it's worth, we were feeling pretty good about ourselves. And but when you're feeling pretty good about yourself, sometimes you need to be, not that I'm in favor of losing, but sometimes you need to be knocked down a peg to regain your competitive spirit instead of being so full of yourselves. But yeah, that was an unbelievable year, and we had that Arizona game in particular was just insane. The game in and of itself, the fact that we spent the night down there, the fact that we got to hang out with Mr. Yates and Coach Lubick and have a good time after the game, and just everything that was involved with it was just a super special year, and I'll never forget it.
Probably a good thing there was no cell phones back then. Cell phone cameras.
Right.
Right.
I was about to say that because I'd have a picture of me and Dave Lay having cigarettes together.
Mitch Palmer, and Dave and Larry Kerr having cigs together.
Not Larry Kerr.
Dave
Lay.
You said the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Dave Lay and I were having cigarettes that night.
Lay used to fire up at halftime.
Yeah, Lay used to be smoking on the sidelines.
Well, I can see that because Larry Kerr didn't seem like a smoker to me, but Dave Lay definitely did.
No.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, with that raspy voice.
I don't know if you guys would all agree, but everyone on here except for Sean is from California, and I really thought Fort Collins changed after that year. Like when I got there, it was kind of a cow town, and then after '94, you could tell by like the girls that were coming into the school, and it just got a lot better. And it proves, the best marketing programs for a university is a good football team, right?
Oh,
right. That changed the whole thing.
Right. Like the volleyball girls, they got.
Why was Adrian smiling when I said the girls?
Adrian's always smiling. So you all can answer this, but I don't know if there has been ever a better defense than that team. You had up front Sean, Kirk, Steve Hodge, Brady Smith, Devo Hawkins could just jump in whenever. Garrett was at the will. Kenny Ragsdale, Kareem Ingram. You had Strode and Ray Jacks at the corners. Greg Myers, he's one of the only one of 4 guys in the Ring of Fame at CSU, and a Jim Thorpe winner. Then you have Prentice Davis, Lynch. So offensively, defensively, when you look at that group,
Vincent Booker.
Yeah, I know you. I love Book too.
And don't forget, we had one of the guys on the line with us is Mr. Adrian Ross, who's mine and Brady's backup, who played. Would you play 7 years in the NFL? So we had him as our backup.
Yep.
We had a young Joey Porter. We had a young Clark Hagan. They were freshmen, I think, at that point.
But, 2 deep NFL defensive ends on each side. 2 deep.
Yep. 2 deep. Exactly. 2 deep. So that was going to be my next point. Is you got Adrian waiting in the wings, and you got Joey Porter waiting in the wings. There's just something to where you've got guys, right? You know, Sonny always talked about the high tide raises all boats, or whatever his saying was. And you had Sean, we had Brady, and you had Adrian and Clark and Joey waiting in the wings. It was just like it was D-line U. Now they call CSU wide receiver U, and we suck. But back then, I would much rather have guys that wreaked havoc on the defensive line. Adrian, what was it like having Sean and Brady to learn from?
Oh, it was great because to have those guys and the mission they were on, and I got to see I firsthand got to see the work that they put in to be better. You know, they were good, but they want to be great. You know, and I got to be able to, like they said, good marks for me to be able to face. You know, and I think I pushed them as well, up in the weight room, when they'd have to look over and see the young guy, I'm hopping up onto that bench. I'm trying to get after y'all. And then I come back in the summer and I'm like, damn, I can't catch y'all. I can't catch y'all yet. But, it was as great for me to be able to have those guys there. And, I remember when I first hopped in the huddle and them just looking at me and they were like, all right, like you better be ready. And they just, it was like the accountability to be able to have from the older guys when I was young, and Kurt as well, I mean, it was unfortunate, when Kurt was ready to play and then he hurt the knee, and then that they ended up moving Sean. I don't think a lot of people know this stuff, but, Sean sacrificed being a defensive end when Bowman went down and they moved him to D-tackle. And that's not those are things like that, I personally know about, and a lot of people don't necessarily know about it, like the sacrifice that you do for your team. Here's a guy that's, setting the record books, and he goes down to play defensive tackle, and then I come in and play defensive end. And, those are the sacrifices made to win these championships.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. I look back to that and I wish that CSU could have kept building on that. And I got a few questions that a few more questions. We had a bunch of listeners that submitted some questions I want to ask each of you, and then I want to ask to throw that out to all of you, and then I got a few questions for each of you before we finish up. So if we got like another 15 minutes, it would be awesome. But so have you guys – hold on a second here. Hold on, let me catch up. Rivalries. Right now, in the last 5 years, I think we went 2-14-ish against our biggest rivals.
2-13.
2-13. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's
absolutely disgusting.
It's disgusting. Thank you, Sean. It's so
I won't say anything about Coach Bobo.
Stop it, Michael.
My go-to, but
we'll get Mike going off on a half-hour tangent. And no disrespect, Anthony, you were on a couple of those staffs.
I know you're on that staff.
None taken.
If you were on the field, you're right. You were right. You were coaching on the field, right? Right. So, you guys went during that 93 to 95 stretch, 6-0 against Air Force and YO, and then you played CU in 95. They were pretty good that year. Give them credit. So 6-1 as rivals. 6-1 against rivals. How important, did this coaching staff, did you guys take pride in beating the likes of Air Force and Wyoming particularly?
James needs to start answering some questions.
We had drills in training camp that were called the option drill based on we played 3 or 4 teams that had that ran the triple option like Air Force. And, UTEP was one of them. Hawaii was another one, and the Air Force Academy. And so we had Air Force drills. We had different drills all throughout training camp to get us ready for all 3 of those games. And I'll never forget that. And yeah, those games, just to put an emphasis on how important those games were, they were extremely important.
Hey, when an opponent is in the foam song, you gotta go take them down, right? If they're in if they made the song, they're
well
important.
said.
You know what I mean? And the one thing that I wish happened at a greater rate is happening with this program now, and that would be more of an emphasis on those rivalries. I think our emphasis is kind of misplaced at times, and that's quite honestly, that's because there are not a lot of CSU guys around in the program that can share that. So quite frankly, if that doesn't change, we will be spinning our wheels, and I think
CSU's got to like Anthony, just to build on what Anthony said. I think there's a lot of for some reason, I don't know who's to blame for this. I'm not going to try to place blame on any one person, but a lot of former ex-players are just not going to games. They're not looking at contacting a lot of the former players to get up there and be hanging out with a lot of the boosters and have an area for us to go to be doing those sorts of things. Now, for what it's worth, the fact that we still have Coach Ellers there, he can take care of you sometimes, but if you're relying on him every week, just because he was there when we were there doesn't mean that he's going to be able to take care of everybody all the time. And he was seemingly the only guy that was trying to work on that kind of stuff and getting ex-players there. And it's a little bit frustrating to see some of that's going on. It's been going on more recently. And like I said, I don't want to place blame on any one person, but at some point, you've got to really, if you want to build that tradition and get that tradition back, you've got to include history. I remember lots of times when we would be at practice and they'd invite guys to come talk after practice, guys like Steve Bartello and some of the guys that came before us to come talk to us. And that was huge for us. It meant so much to us, even though CSU didn't have a enormous history before 94. But I'd still remember talking to some of those guys, and it was great learning for us because these are grown men that have been through exactly what we've been through and beat CU and beat Wyoming in their day. And so yeah, I mean, you've got to have those guys around the program in order to remember history, in order to keep bringing those things up, and in order to keep that rivalry alive.
John, that's fascinating. But you and James, are you from here?
I grew up in Colorado Springs when I was younger, but I moved around all over the place. But
but when you were recruited, you were a local kid. So you and Sean are two of the 7 guys.
Norco, baby.
I was in Norco. I was in I grew up in Colorado as a little kid, but then I went to California. I grew up in Southern California.
Okay, so 6 out of the 7 guys here are not local kids. So was it harder to grasp the importance of, yeah, we're playing Wyoming from we're playing the University of Wyoming from Laramie, 60 miles up the road. How does that resonate with you guys? Or how does that ever sink in to make it important to you? Because the reason I'm asking this is because for a long time, at least in the last 5 years, we had a strong emphasis on recruiting the South, and we got a lot of good players, good athletes out of there. But there's some drawbacks to that, like guys that don't necessarily resonate with this region. Can they say, okay, we're playing Wyoming or CU or Air Force this week. Do we care anymore? Is this that much important to us? How did you guys draw that? Where did that strength to know that beating Wyoming, Air Force, CU was important to you? How did you come up with that?
Well, again, I think we talk about it a little bit when we say that even 6 of the 7 guys that are on the phone right now are from California. They didn't have a big understanding of Wyoming, Air Force, CSU until they got here. But the reason that it resonated with them is because a lot of the older guys came around all the time, and they made a point to do that, and that was enormous for us, and that was to because we were moving in different directions. We were recruiting people from all over the country now, not just from Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. It was now all of a sudden we're getting kids from California, from Texas, from Chicago, from all over the place, and so whenever you have that, you have to keep those kids engaged and understand what your local rivalries are. And that being said, how I believe you do that is you make an emphasis by bringing your guys, that you bring back Shaq Barrett, you bring back guys that can come back and that can resonate with the program. These NFL guys, your 4 wide receivers, you call them those guys. And you say, hey, come back and support your university, man. They're getting ready to play Wyoming. We need you guys to come back. If you're on a bye week or whatever, I know a lot of those guys are still playing, but even the guys that are done playing, you can call on those guys, and if you treat them right, they'll come back to the school, no questions asked. They'll come talk to the team and stress the importance of those games. And but if they're not hearing that kind of thing, then they don't know about it.
I agree, and it's got to be a systemic thing. It's got to come from the coaches, right? It's got to be important to them, and you have to know how important it is to them, and then it has to come from leadership on the team, the upperclassmen. I know for a fact when I got there, Kevin Verdugo and Mike Jimenez, they made it very clear to me who the teams were that we have to beat, who's the biggest rival, and what games matter. And Tony Alford and all those guys, when you sit back and watch what the upperclassmen do and how important it is to them, I know every year you should be trying to take care of that senior class that's going out, right? And the way you do that is you beat the rivals for them, so that they forever can say, we beat Wyoming my senior year. We beat BYU my senior year. We beat Air Force my senior year. That's the goal. It's taking care of the senior class because they've imparted some things into you over the years that you want to do something for them as your last basically duty on their way out the door. So it's got to be a systemic thing where it's important to the coaches, and then it's got to be important to the leadership on the team, in my opinion.
Hey,
You know
go
what?
ahead,
Go ahead, Mitch.
Go ahead,
Let
Mitch.
me say something real quick. I had a kind of a unique experience myself because I had history with Colorado State before I got there. My uncle was a coach at Colorado State years before Earl Bruce, so Leon Fuller. And then so I had some history with the school. I wanted to go there anyway. And then my senior year in high school, I got coached by a guy that I think, Anthony, you'll remember Andy Byrne?
Yeah.
Andy Byrne was the safety. He was a quarterback that turned into safety during the Freedom Bowl years. And Andy coached my high school, and so I had some history coming in. And Andy had a big influence on how I got there. With Coach Vance Bedford was the guy that recruited me. And what I'm getting at to support what Anthony and Sean said is also when we make phone calls. I've made phone calls to CSU, and Garrett and I have talked about this, but I've seen some of the best long snappers in the country for the past 20 years at all ages. And I've made phone calls to CSU to get guys recruited that I know will get full rides somewhere else. and I've been ignored. And I think getting recruited by a historical CSU Ram player, like if Sean Moran calls and says, hey, there's a kid at Aurora that needs to be recruited, or if Garrett Sand calls and says, hey, there's a kid at, where you're coaching that needs to be recruited. It's getting recruited by Garrett. You had a situation where the kid was being recruited by 2 of our rivals. And these things are important. And I feel like, I know there's a million kids that want to play football in college, but when it's coming from one of us, that almost brings history with it. We tell them, hey, if you're going to go there, you're going to beat Wyoming. You're going to have to be there for it. Like, the history comes with the way we talk to the kids that we are recommending. So that's something I think needs to be a little bit more important so when us guys that are out coaching still and see great players, they ought to be kind of looked at a little bit more than some of the regular recruits. And I know that's tough because everybody wants to play in college. So that's all I wanted to say. But I had a history coming from a guy like Andy Byrne. I loved Colorado State because I had been there multiple times. But Andy also said, hey, if you're going to go there and Vance Bedford is going to recruit you, there's some things you need to know. And he kind of told me that going in. That was my experience.
Garrett, you kind of had similar comments, right? You're a high school coach, and
I mean, yeah, it's frustrating because I think everybody on here, we love CSU. I mean, we all want CSU. I want them to go 12-0. I want them, I want success for them. It was a little frustrating for me lately because we actually had 4 guys on my high school team this year that I coached that got Division I scholarships. One's going to UCLA. One committed to San Diego State. He was offered by CSU. Unfortunately, when he wanted to do his recruiting trip was when Coach Bobo was let go and there was a transition. He really wanted to go up there and see the campus, but he ended up going to San Diego State. I feel like they need to get back to their recruiting roots, which, I mean, look at this Zoom right here. I mean, we had a lot of good guys from Southern California. And I feel also you guys talking about like the rivalry between Air Force, Wyoming and stuff. Well, I grew up, I was a San Diego State ball boy when I was in 7th grade. I was ball boy for San Diego State. So I used to see San Diego Air Force and Wyoming play and all that. And, a lot of these are Southern California guys. So we understand about Wyoming and Air Force. Not saying someone from Georgia or Florida doesn't understand the rivalry, but do the parents get to see the kid play? Because we're really not playing teams from back there. We're playing teams from, if I'm a guy from Southern California, I'm a parent, I've got a kid going to CSU, I can drive to the UNLV game, I can drive to the Fresno State game, I can drive to the San Diego State game, I can see my kid play a lot. I see that through my high school too. I see 40, 50, Anthony I've talked about, I've seen 40, 50 Division I coaches come through our school. And I will say this, CSU did come around of late, but it felt like sometimes we were overreaching out, like, oh, come on, you guys, you got to see this guy. And it's like, why are we begging for you to come check out this guy that's being offered by your rival school? So it was frustrating. So hopefully that'll change.
Remember, I don't know the exact numbers, but in one of the, I think 94, 95 maybe timeline, probably 93, 94, on an 85 scholarship team, there was like 20 of them from Southern California. Oh, and yeah. I don't think that's the case anymore.
My senior year, we had more San Diego recruits than San Diego State did on our roster.
Yeah.
About that. That's just one city. I mean,
so this is an area where I think CSU's been very successful in the past, and for some reason it's not being looked at as much as it used to be. I don't know why, but it used to be Southern California used to be a big draw.
I know why, because it's success. It all starts with coaching. Shit.
You mean like success in recruiting?
I don't know if we're on the air, but it all starts with coaching. Okay, it all starts with coaching, and if you're using that job to go to the next job, it all starts right there. That's the wrong deal. Okay, you got to go that, like Sonny wanted to be there, Earl Bruce wanted to be there. Okay, that meant something to those guys. Okay, and that's why they took. And you knew that as a player. You knew.
Say it again for me, Jimmy.
Hung out with each other.
Go, James.
They were tight knit. They don't have that anymore. Okay, and so you're not going to get that. It all starts with coaching. It is what it is. They ain't gonna. They're going to go out and recruit the South. That's fine. Bread's buttered at CSU.
Right. Guys,
every single guy on the line here got recruited by Earl Bruce staff. Okay, and that's something. We all went there because CSU was turning around. They just won the Freedom Bowl, right? The year before I got there, I know Anthony and Andre and Steve Hodge and some of the guys were true freshmen when they went down there and won the Freedom Bowl, but the rest of us that were incoming freshmen that were being recruited that year, that was the big reason that we went there. On my recruiting trip, I remember having Ray Jackson and James Cregg and Garrett and Ray Jackson and a lot of these guys were on the same recruiting trip, Brady, and we all signed on that same weekend. We're like, man, CSU's turning this place around. Earl Bruce has got these guys rolling, and this looks like a good place to be. And I just remember signing that weekend, and because it felt good. We had that warm and fuzzy feeling, and it felt great. And so we got to give a shout out. I know, rest his soul, but Earl Bruce was a great coach, and love him or hate him, which it seems to be the case with Earl Bruce. But I always got along with Earl because, you know, if you play hard and you don't touch his quarterback, if you're a defensive player, then you'll be all right. I remember when I was a freshman, I hit Kevin Verdugo in a practice and damn near lost my scholarship. But me and Earl got along great. And, yeah, I think James is right. I think, you know, when you see that a coach wants to be there, a coach from Ohio State, a coach from a big school, then Sonny comes in from Miami, you know, a Montana kid, but he's won 2 national championships with Miami. These big program coaches are coming in and doing very, very well. I mean, they named the stadium after the guy because he's been such a great coach. And, you know, and if Earl doesn't get caught up in all the crap he got caught up in, it might be his name on the field. Because he was turning the program around. Like I said, we all got recruited by Mr. Bruce. So for what it's worth, you know, enough can't be said about Earl and his staff. But yeah, it does come down to not just the coaching, but the coaching is the start of it. And if they're like McElwain and all they want to do is get in and out of town, and then the program's not going to be as successful as you'd like it to be.
Great stuff, John. All right, boys, we've gone almost 2 hours. I want to ask you each 1 or 2 questions more. I'll start with Kirk. What is your favorite Sonny memory?
Favorite Sonny memory was, now this was 95, and we were playing in Folsom. And I have to say that was probably the most disappointing game of my time there because, you know, I thought we had a good team and, you know, it was tough to replace Anthony, but Darren had come in. And Garrett, you're laughing. Hopefully you remember the story. But, you know, Sonny just had some sort of magic about him, right? A way to relate to people that was just different. And I think we were it was like the last practice of the week or in the locker room. And he says, we're going to go down there and kick CSU's ass. And, you know, he would say things that didn't always make sense, but there was something endearing about him that, you know, you'd run through a wall for the guy. So that's my favorite Sonny memory.
Oh, that is so good. I love Sonny so much. Garrett, since he threw the ball to your court, I have to ask you, I think I've heard that you can do a pretty good Sonny impression.
Oh, jeez. Well,
can you give me one?
I've done solid Lubick impersonations over the years. I'm a little rusty. I could probably do that one. But that is actually Kirk's Sonny story. That's also my favorite Sonny story. So we were it wasn't our locker room. It was across the hallway from our locker room. It was just a team room with fold-out green chairs. I don't even think it had a Ram logo at the time. But he said, "Oh man, we're gonna get on that bus. We're gonna go down to Boulder. We're gonna kick ass." And we were all like looking at each other like, he just okay, whatever. We know what you mean, but let's go. So good stuff. He does a good Sonny impersonation.
All right, hold on. Don't pass the buck, because I have been specifically asked by someone who knows you well if you can do a Sonny Lubick promoting Mellow Yellow.
No, can't do it.
What?
Yes or no?
Come on, Garrett.
I heard it.
I'll get off the air.
Multiple sources.
Hey, Joel, you talking about Mellow Yellow, the hippie store, or the soda pop?
Mellow Yellow, the hippie store.
The hippie store, okay.
Okay, can you do the book rant, Garrett? Come on, give us something.
I know it's Renault doing it.
It is Renault, but you got to give us something, bro.
I cannot do Lubick promoting Mellow Yellow. I will do it off air. It's too good.
Can you give us?
It's too good.
Can you give us Sonny anything?
He did a Burger King commercial with Neuheisel.
Yeah, can you do that?
Well, that's what spurred the Mellow Yellow thing. I said, how hilarious would it be if Lubick was doing like a promo for Mellow Yellow, and then it went from there. Is Mellow Yellow still around?
I don't think so.
Oh no.
No.
All right.
Can you give us an impersonation of any sort? I'm going to be extremely disappointed if you do not.
Let me move on to someone else. And I haven't done Lubick impersonation in so many years.
All right.
I need to get into character. Let me work on it.
We can do that. We'll do that. All right.
James Cregg does a good Lubick.
Oh.
All right, James. What do you got, bro?
I'm out of it.
What?
Hey, you break that out when you got to recruit. You go into your Sonny mode.
Yeah.
Lock him down.
No doubt.
When I
what the hell? 1-0 versus LSU.
Huh?
1-0 versus LSU.
Yeah.
Right,
Go Rams.
I would tell you my best
1992.
I would tell you my best Sonny moment, but he was always on defense, so he was just only talk to the team. I just always heard him talk to the team. He never was around us on offensive guys. He was always around the defensive guys.
So 1992, CSU went into Death Valley and beat LSU.
Were you the quarterback, Anthony?
They were 2-9.
Okay. Your
Scored the game winner.
Right? Sophomore year?
I scored the game-winning touchdown.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was at a party, and it was one of the few games I did not watch from start to finish. We were at a party, and someone was like tracking the game somehow on a computer. Actually, there weren't even really computers at the time. That's how old it was.
Sure.
But I was like, oh my God, we just beat LSU on the road, and like I announced it at this party on Laurel Street, and everybody went crazy. And so James Cregg.
Yeah.
You were one of our better offensive linemen in history, played on some of our better teams. You spent 6 years. I mentioned this at the very beginning of the show. You spent 6 seasons as a coach between Colgate and Idaho. Then you get a job with the Oakland Raiders, kind of your big break. You go to Tennessee, USC, then you get back to the NFL. You're with the Broncos, the Chargers, and then all of a sudden you get this role with LSU. Ed Orgeron brings you on. You're now a national champion. It had to be the apex of your career, and you're probably the last thing on your mind is what is CSU doing? But you were part of the best CSU lines in CSU history. It was always a hallmark of Sonny's teams, but that's recently declined. Like we suck. We're not very good in the trenches. I'm curious to know like your take as in your offensive line that you took over with 2 starters, I think 2 years ago. Now you just won the award for the best offensive line in college football. So what are we missing? What is CSU missing? What are the traits of a good offensive line group, and what can CSU to be doing better to improve this?
Well, I was at the Chargers with actually Pat Meyer, and Pat played next to Pat, and I have a great respect for Pat Meyer. Pat and I are really tight with one another, and Pat Meyer's the classic offensive lineman that you want to have. Like, he's the overachiever. The guy's like maybe 6'1". He's over 300. He was over at 300 at the time, but he's really built to be 225. And the heart of that guy and the will of that guy and how tough he is, he's not going to give up. He's going to keep battling, and that competitiveness, that's what you want to have. I think a guy like Pat Meyer just comes to my mind just because I played with him and I'm dear friends with him too. And he's the heart and soul of what you want to have at CSU. You want to get a guy like that, be able to develop them and get tough guys around you and just get around those guys. It ain't about their size. It ain't about their star, what they're ranked, all that bull crud. It's getting the guys with that have that desire and that want to, just like he did.
That's so good. That is so good. I don't know what it is. I mean, CSU's hallmark, the strength of all of our good teams was being good in the trenches, and I really miss being tougher up front. Congratulations, by the way. What is it like coaching under Ed Orgeron?
It's great. I've known him for over 10 years, and I had a great situation out at the Chargers. We were really rolling, and at the time, and I had a really good deal out there. And he called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, would you want this opportunity? I don't want to interview anybody else. I trust you. Would you jump at it?" I just knew what he was starting out at USC. I knew they didn't hire the right guy out there. In my opinion, the players gravitate to him. And he's got a heart of gold, and he's like a lot like Sonny. Matter of fact, it would be funny if he was going to jump in here in my office here, because he's really tight with Coach Lubick. He calls him all the time when I'm with him in the car. He's like, "Hey, let's call Coach Lubick up right now and talk to him." He's really tight with Coach, and he's a lot like Coach Lubick. He brings that mentality to him. You feel he's got a genuine personality. And the players feel that, and now he'll get a hard on them now, but you know what? In the end, and he's always going to love them up too. And it's just been a joy working with him. I saw his vision. That's why I took the job out here.
So I got one question. The last few years, every time we get a recruiting class, they're like, well, this kid got this many P5 offers and this and that. How was your recruitment when you came to CSU? And then I look at a kid like Moses, like all your guys' teammates.
Yeah.
CSU was his one Division I offer. And then this kid goes on, he goes and plays 4 years in the NFL. By the way, he says, "What's up?" to you guys. But like, what was that like for you coming to CSU?
Yeah,
I know you're a walk-on.
Yeah. I was recruited by Urban Meyer, and he's one of the best recruiters around, hands down. Like, he's got a way to just keep plugging at you, and he doesn't give up. And, he's one of those kind of guys, and he's a relentless recruiter. And I was recruited by him, and like Sean said earlier, we came on that trip, and it just felt right. It just felt like the place to be, and it just felt like, because the magic was in the air off that Freedom Bowl. I just think CSU just needs to feel that again. They need to feel that magic again, and they'll get more guys into the program that don't really see it from the outside and don't really know what it's like. But it is a special place, and it's going to get going again, and it's just got to get the right fit in there and the right culture in there to get it going.
Anyone else?
That is so good. Thank you.
For me,
thank you, James.
You bet.
For me, I wasn't like one of these highly recruited guys that had all these big time offers. Most of my offers were other WAC schools, San Diego States, your Hawaii's, your New Mexico's. And it just, the main thing for me was we talked about the Corbett Hall D-wing earlier. You know, that's legendary, right? Like that's like a big frat party when the
I
whole
live in
team.
Newsom with the basketball players. So.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So when the whole team lives in one wing of Corbett Hall, it's kind of hard to not like go there on a recruiting trip and see the camaraderie and see how just how cool it was to be around each other and have each other's back. I was sold. That it was my first trip and my only trip, you know, because of that, because of what I saw. I saw the camaraderie that I wanted to be around, and you know, when you start getting people that want to be here, then you got something, and then it better be competitive too, of course. So
That's awesome. Love hearing that. Love hearing that kind of stuff.
Garrett, you ready yet?
No. Are you talking Mellow Yellow?
Yes.
Dude, I can't do that, bro.
All right. Can you give me any Sonny impression? Don't incriminate Sonny. I love Sonny, but can you give me something?
I did one. I did the
No, you didn't do anything. Give us something better.
I did the going down to Boulder.
Not
that was
good
solid.
enough. Not good.
How about Mick Delaney? You got Mick Delaney nailed.
Oh no, Adrian's got Coach Delaney. Adrian's got Coach Delaney down.
Wait, he's a running backs coach. How does Adrian have that?
Adrian's got Skladany and Delaney down pat, man. Adrian's the guy.
Delaney was, he was Coach Mick Delaney, who was the assistant head coach. So he did all the announcements. He basically, so he did everything. So we had a commentary for Coach Delaney.
So, hey, Mitch, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
All right, so you had an interesting career. All right, so you were a long snapper, which is a specialty, right? And then then you were a linebacker, backup defensive end, and you make it in the NFL. And you play with 5 different teams in the NFL, I think.
Yep.
Right. So were you the head of the NFLPA in your region for quite a while?
I'm the secretary right now, so I participate in all the meetings and everything here. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so I just want to apologize. I was supposed to go to a party with you last January or last July. Moses told me to come by, and I was on a bachelor party in San Diego, and you guys had a NFLPA. Achilles Smith had a big presentation on some businesses.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we'll do that stuff. I didn't make it that night.
Oh man, you got to come out. We have pretty fun meetings actually. They're a good time. So anyway, I don't know what all you guys heard when I was driving. I couldn't get any.
Not very much. Not very much.
So one of the fun. You want me to talk about one of my most fond memories of CSU and the people that are on this call? I think Adrian's already heard this story once. I know Sean has, but I wasn't always a long snapper. That's something I had been doing for a long time. But one of the reasons that I kind of my senior year decided to focus on that was the years past, Sean and Brady took up everybody's playing time. And then when going into my senior year, I thought I'd get a shot. I was in the best shape of my life at defensive end, and they started letting these 3 young kids play. And they told me that if I get hurt, we can't punt. And because Bowman was hurt the year before, and he's our backup long snapper.
Bowman, why were you always hurt?
I was only hurt once. Thank you.
But he was the only other snapper we had at the time. He was the only other snapper we had at the time. So it was a really good excuse for the coaches to say, you know, Mitch, if you get hurt, we can't punt and kick field goals and all that. And then later on in life, I realized I wasn't getting my reps in practice. And I know why now, because everybody around me was phenomenal. Adrian, Clark, and Joey coming up, they realized that was a really good reason for the coaches to say, if you get hurt, we can't punt, was really, Mitch, these guys are better than you, so you're not going to play. So that's kind of my senior year. My senior year, I was like, you know what, if I'm not going to make it as a defensive end, and I was an average linebacker, average defensive end, good enough to play in college, but I'd been snapping since 5th grade. So why not?
Good long snapper though.
Why not give it a chance? And that's how I got where I am. So, or where I was.
What's the key to being a good long snapper? Because that
finish and follow through.
Okay.
It's like almost like throwing darts.
Everything in life.
Throws, shooting free throws.
Free throws, finish and follow through. Get up in the cookie jar. It's very similar getting out that way. But you know what it is for long snapping? It's become more mainstream now, but in the old days, it was find someone who wants to be a part of the team and can take on a job and handle it mentally and give that kid a job and make him feel good about himself. Now these guys are getting full rides to be snappers. It's kind of crazy, but so just be CSU to me was also my first trip, and I took the scholarship, and Garrett was my host on my recruiting trip. And I'm never going to give up on CSU and recruiting to CSU. I think a lot of the personal touch has been lost in the internet and the texting, and the kids don't even call back; they text back. It's a different way to recruit now. I'm sure James and Anthony know it's changed. The world's changed. Like Vance Bedford came and sat in my living room, and actually invited me on the trip, and so it's a little different recruiting nowadays. But the history and it comes from guys like Garrett, my host, and Brady and Sean, we were all. I think Kirk. Yeah, I remember Kirk and James. I think were on the same trip, right?
Sean was my host.
Yeah, and Kirk made the awesome mistake of wearing his high school Letterman jacket.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. All right.
And he wanted to make sure we all saw how many sports he lettered in and all that. So that was pretty awesome. Kirk.
And how much facial hair he has.
Yeah.
Hey, Mitch, thanks so much for being with us tonight. You were awesome. So my memories of your playing days were my favorite ever. So thanks for being here, brother.
Joel went to GoPro mode.
Yeah, I got to move. So, hey, Sean, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So all right, I went to Cherry Creek. You went to Overland. You were our arch rival. Yeah. You were a Trailblazer. I was a Bruin. You coming into college, man. Sorry. Stop. You and I both know a lot of players, a lot of friends together. But
absolutely.
You didn't have a lot of size. You were a swimmer in high school, right? You didn't have a lot of size, but you somehow, man, you ballooned up.
He was a huge swimmer.
Nah, he wasn't that big as a swimmer. And then he comes to CSU. They put him as an outside linebacker. He balloons up to 6'3", 254, and moves to defensive end. 170 tackles later, 16 sacks later. How did you transform? And I know that the coaching staff pushed for you to be in that role, but how did that happen?
I credit a lot of the things that I've been successful with in my career to the guys that came before me. Steve Hodge, Norton, Kevin Lynch, Matt Rude, a lot of the guys that Kevin Verdugo, a lot of like Anthony's been saying, a lot of these guys that came before me really showed me what it took. I played 4 sports in high school. I didn't lift a lot of weights. I was 6'3" and 196 pounds in my first weigh-in at CSU. My nephew's up at CSU right now. His name's Ryan Lynch. He's a walk-on wide receiver, right? He's Kevin Lynch's son, and I was his size, okay, when I first showed up at CSU, and he's a wide receiver. And so when I first get there, I'm basically a wide receiver, size-wise, not speed-wise. And you know what? Those guys showed me how to lift weights and work my tail off to get to where I needed to be. And without those guys, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at, where I ended up being at, 10, 15 years later. Those guys paved the way for me, showed me how to work hard. We ended up spending 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the weight room. By the time I left CSU, over a steady, I was there for 5 years, so I redshirted. Over the course of 5 years, I gained 12, 15, 16 pounds a year. And by the time I left, I was 255, 260 pounds and ready to go. And then a year or two later, I was 275 pounds. I just kept gaining weight. And I'm still gaining weight. I'm 310 pounds now. But not good, not the same kind of weight.
Look up with Darren Hall's cruncher thing.
Right.
Right. So no, and a lot of these guys have said a lot of good things about what the program means and what the program's missing and where we're all coming from. Listen, my last thought that I want to share with everyone is that CSU is a great place. They used to recruit, and every single one of these guys on this phone. Adrian was a walk-on. Some of these guys have been walk-ons. Okay, every single one of us is a blue-collar guy. Every single one of us was an overachiever, under-recruited, doubted our whole high school careers, going into our college careers. Like Anthony said, Anthony is 6'1", 180 pounds. I was considered a wide receiver size. Brady was considered, we called him the stork, because he was 6'5" and 205 pounds. And, James Cregg was an undersized offensive lineman at 240 pounds coming out of high school. We were all undersized, and we were never going to amount to anything. And we all came together, and we all rose up. And it was a phenomenal thing to watch. It was a phenomenal group of guys to be around. And how you replicate that is you have good coaches that know how to recruit. They know how to recruit those guys, those diamonds in the rough. But you can't see it yet. Ray Jackson was a Prop 48 guy. I don't know if you guys remember Prop 48. But Ray Jackson couldn't play his freshman year because he couldn't get the SAT scores to get into CSU. Now, Ray Jackson is one of the smartest guys I've ever met. But he couldn't get above, and he couldn't get the 18 on the SA or ACT scores. So he ended up being a Prop 48. But he only had 3 years of eligibility. So, these we're talking about guys that are just gritty, blue-collar, hard-working sons of bucks that just know what it takes to get the job done. And when a group of guys like that come together, and you're not recruiting 5-chip or 5-star athletes anymore, and you get back to your roots of recruiting kids that seemingly nobody else wanted. And even the guys like Kevin McDougal and the guys that came after us, and a lot of those guys are under-recruited, and they got a chip on their shoulder because, for example, CU wanted me to walk on. CU said, we want you to walk on here as a middle linebacker. I played middle linebacker in high school, and I played middle linebacker my first 2 years up at CSU. And they wanted me to walk on. I get why. I was undersized because I was a swimmer. They wanted me to walk on. But they had a guy by the name of Ted Johnson, who was their middle linebacker, and Greg Beekert, both who had played 13, 14 years in the NFL. So now I understand why they wanted me to walk on. But back in the day, I had no idea.
They weren't that good.
And they wanted me to walk on, so I was like, "The hell with that! I'm going to go play at a place where they want me." And CSU wanted me, and Earl offered me, and that was, what I really think CSU needs to get back at is the recruiting those guys that maybe nobody else might not want, but a coach saw something in them on the film that they understand this guy's going to be a hell of a friggin' college athlete and a college football player. And I think that's what every coach, and I think that James Cregg, now being back in the college realm, can say that that's what every coach is looking for, is that grit, that team nature, that atmosphere, that I don't give a hell, I don't give a crap what position you put me in. I just want to win. I just want to play. That's why I played defensive tackle. That's why I was on the punt team. That's why I did everything I could to help that team win when I was at CSU. That's what my whole career was all about. So they need to start recruiting kids that are blue-collar kids that don't give a damn about what position they play. And Joey Porter was a wide receiver, was the H-back when he got to CSU.
Right. Sean, one more question for you, man. And Mike,
Yeah.
You can ask one after this. But you played 8 years in the NFL. You had a chance at a Super Bowl ring. You lost on a field goal as time expired to the Patriots. What was it like to come that close to winning a ring?
It was incredible. If you look up the kick, the last kick of the game, it was all splattered all over the friggin' news, all over the country, about Adam Vinatieri's kick, and it was right through the uprights, right through the middle, because Adam Vinatieri is a Hall of Fame kicker, and you got my dumb ass right there in the middle trying to block his kick, and the ball's about 10 yards above my hand. And it was a 48-yard field goal. And yeah, it was an incredible feeling just to play in a Super Bowl. And it was a gut-wrenching loss to lose the Super Bowl, especially when we were the best team in the league that year. And all I have to say about that game is that, that was the beginning of Videogate, and they cheated, and that's that. And Josh McDaniels got hired that year, and he was the guy that got put in charge of video recording our walkthrough the night before the game. So, but what are you gonna do? We lost, and they can't go back in history and change the annals of history. And Tom Brady's a hell of a quarterback. I just don't believe in Bill Belichick. That's my 2 cents.
He's all right.
He's all right. Mikey, did you have another follow-up?
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Look at his record before Tom Brady, though.
Yeah, right. Right,
So,
exactly.
So I had
it's a sub-500 record.
Sorry. So I had a couple questions for Adrian. So as a walk-on, what brought you to CSU?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, what brought me to CSU? I wanted to be a veterinarian. So they had animal science program there, and it was just by chance. I think Tom Ehlers went to my high school, so that was his recruiting area. And fortunately for me, he came into town and saw me on tape, and pulled me out of class. Said he wanted to come by and meet with me, and I'm like, where? Like who wants to see me? And I remember him coming by the house, and it was like when he said, "What do you want to do in school?" and I said veterinarian, he's like, we've got the #1 vet school in the nation. And I'm sitting there like, what veterinarian? So I'm sitting there like, wow, like what are the odds of this? And then I was a student of the game, and I was studying the linebackers on good teams. So I studied the Miami Hurricanes, so Michael Barrow and Darren Smith. So I knew of Coach Lubick from just me watching that Miami, Alabama game and all that stuff. So when, he brings them into town and I get to see the ring and all that, and I'm like, dang, being a linebacker, this is the guy that taught the guys that I've been watching on national television. That was it for me. I mean, I was going to go get that tutelage and to go ahead and learn from the guy that I had seen. I saw the work that he had put on the field with those guys. I didn't know I was going to be moved to defensive end, but just watching, Crine and Patrick, them two at DN, I knew that whole defense, and that's what I want to play in. And that's, I went there for the defense to be able to play in that style of D, because I knew I could play different positions.
Nice.
Plus, yeah.
Yes, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson was there too, and he wasn't a good football player, and not like the show baller shows and all that fun stuff. He wasn't very good at football, so he had to become a fake wrestler and be a national millionaire media star.
Right.
The eyebrow. Can you do the eyebrow?
100%.
Sean, it was awesome to have you on, man. Thanks for joining us right after your work call. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I'll do anytime, man. Anytime you guys want to do this. This is fun. I enjoyed it, and let's do it again sometime.
Thank you, man. Adrian, one of my also favorite players. All you guys are some of my favorite players on this call. One of my favorite games.
I don't like any of y'all, so whatever.
Shut up. One of my favorite games of all time. This is not easily topped, by the way. 1996, Colorado Springs. We go to Air Force. We're losing 41-14. And Air Force is taking it to us. It was a night game. Gary Thorne, who was famous for doing like NHL hockey on ESPN, he was the play-by-play guy, and we made a comeback. We were down 41-14. We made a comeback. We won 42-41. Moses made a pass to Jeremy Calhoun in the back corner of the north end zone. Ridiculous
The best catch I've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, I mean, it was like he was nowhere to be found, and all of a sudden he just turned on the Jets.
That play, and Sean taking it to the house got to be the top 2 plays in CSU history.
Yeah, well, Sean's was quite a bit more important into what it meant. 96, there wasn't as much on the line, but I will never forget Adrian. Bo Morgan, he's such a little weasel, But like we made that, so that pass then Moses made to Jeremy Calhoun in the end zone. We take a 42-41 lead with half a minute left, and I think Bo Morgan threw a pick or something, and so
Eric Olsen, the safety, intercepted it, right?
Yeah, and Bo Morgan comes to like you were like, all right, open game on Bo Morgan, and you went after him.
Say to him for him to get the 15-yarder.
Right, and he was so mad. Like, I love watching it because you stuck your arm out, Mad Backer, and you straight armed him, and he couldn't get to you, and you like forced him down on the ground. What do you remember about that game? And I will never forget that because I did. Mike really hates Air Force. I dislike Air Force, but that was such a cool moment.
Man, I remember going down there to Colorado Springs, and we had been used to whooping Air Force up, and I was pissed that he was getting out like that. But because of him, they were running some plays that teams don't run. They were just it was like a different option. He was just, I think, like you see Navy do it now, where they just the quarterback, they're doing the what's the boy Baltimore's name? Lamar Jackson, where he's just like quarterback power, and he was just taking off the middle, and they were all long runs. So kind of how Hill said earlier, every time they scored, I just was almost laughing like, I'm like, okay, okay, the quarterback broke. Like, y'all ain't winning this game, and he was taking off. And it's like weird when you play Air Force because it was almost a disadvantage for them because they like to run the clock out. So those long runs he was running and breaking, I'm like, y'all ain't going to be able to stop and run this clock out. Like, so we're just going to get the ball back. And sure enough, that's what we did. I think someone came down in special teams. Joey or somebody hit somebody. He fumbled. Calvin Brandt scored. But, yeah, we were taught that when they get the interception to turn around and block. So I only saw when I hit him and he threw it, Olsen picked it. And all I saw was the pick, so I went to block him. I never knew that he was tackled down, so I'm just putting my arm out to block him, and he's pissed for some reason, and he's pulling me. So I'm trying to stop, and it looks like I'm pushing him, and he pulls me down on the ground. I fall on top of him, and they throw a flag on me.
That was on you.
Yeah, and then I guess he said something up in the paper. And so the coaches think I said something to this guy because he goes, oh, it was the most horrible thing. And they were trash talking me. So they assume I was the guy talking. And I'm like, I hit him and he threw an interception. What do I need to say? Like, I don't need to say nothing to him. I went and put my hands up. And y'all watch the TV cop. I'm in the stands with the band partying.
So that was when email first started. And somebody wrote email address all over the student center and was like, email Bo Morgan. Yeah.
Right.
Well, all I got to say about Bo Morgan is he was 5'3" and 147 pounds. So. So he was a relatively successful Air Force quarterback that was 5'3", and I'm sure is working with the Barnum Bailey circus at this point.
Oh, jeez. I'm gonna get emails about that. Well, Adrian, a lot of great memories with you, man. We're going 2.5 hours long here, and I wanted to ask you about your time in the NFL. But
Joel,
go ahead.
so my last question: you played on both of them, 94 and 97. Which was the better team?
Oh boy!
I'm gonna put it on you.
Oh, he knows.
Answer this correctly, Adrian.
Because I know a couple of your teammates that tell me the correct answer.
No. What, Booker?
Better.
Booker, and that's Booker and Booker?
No,
Come on, Adrian.
Booker was on the 94 team. He doesn't give me the correct answer.
Better at what?
Who was the better team, 94 or 97?
I would have to say the way that the coaches constructed the rosters, I think the 97 team, if we shuffled Joey off the bench and put him onto the starting lineup, and slap me back at backer, or do some shuffling with who we actually have on the team. Jason Kraft is sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? We had some talented guys that that weren't necessarily in our starting lineup that year, and we still got the best team in school history and won our bowl game. But I'll say the 94 team is probably the best team to be able to compete against the nation. Size-wise, the backers on that team, you're able to go and play against a Michigan and be able to be able to have size up front with the line on that we had then and with the D line that we had. I think size-wise, the 94 team could compete against other teams in the nation. Now, I think we could on offense as well, but I think, linebacker-wise, the 97 team, we were pretty small.
It's a great answer.
So I'll go with the
This is very diplomatic. Very diplomatic. Well, Adrian,
some of his 97 teammates are listening, so they
right.
What they expect.
Right. Hey man, so happy you joined us, man. We loved when you played. So many good memories. Thanks, brother. All right, Garrett, thanks. Last chance. I need a Sonny impression. Don't
Vipers
let me
in
down.
the box.
Don't let me
Vipers
down.
in the box.
I mean, I could almost do like a gamut of all the coaches. Almost, what's that one guy that does the Caliano? Who does
Frank Caliendo.
Do it.
Dude,
Except for Mick Delaney. Nobody knows who Mick Delaney is unless you're from Montana.
Just give us a snippet. That's all we need.
Of Delaney?
No, Sonny. I mean, we all know Mick Delaney, but Sonny is who everyone's gonna.
You should do it too, Adrian. Come on.
Come on, Adrian. Let's hear it.
I want some Skladany.
All right.
Oh, Skladany, man.
Skladany.
Dude, I gotta say, Skladany was such an underrated coach in the annals. We're all talking 100%. About this. Dude, we're all talking about this stuff. First of all, Skladany coached the D line, and look at our D line and stuff. But think about our special teams were pretty good back then, man. We had some good plays. Yeah. And okay, Anthony, you were talking earlier, what makes a good team, why our teams were so good. I mean, we really, all three phases of the game, man, offense, defense, special teams. And, depending on the game, which phase of the game would rise up and kind of provide that spark. And a lot of times it was those special teams, man. So
our punt blocks, when you talk about Ray Jackson, Skladany's scheme was basically tell Ray to go where he wanted to go, pick a gap and go. He let him go on a couple things where he wouldn't let any other player go. We all were running just a regular punt return. He said, "Ray, you just pick a hole and go." He would come from
brilliant coaching.
Like a floating linebacker in there.
Dude, don't overcoach, man. If you got a good player, don't overcoach or overthink it. Well, I'm talking of one Super Bowl ring here, so I should probably be quiet. Let James talk. Anyway. Yeah.
Right. G, one last
Adrian,
shot.
Special teams, guys. Let's bring it up. The special teams meeting. Let's not be late to the special teams meeting, guys. We got some special things going back there. We got Greg Myers, guys. We got Greg Myers. All you got to do, guys, you guys just got to get your damn hands on these guys for 5 seconds. Greg Myers is going to take the damn thing back. It's the easy thing. Let's let Greg Myers back there. We're going to break records. He's going to break Vi Sikahama. He's going to break Vi Sikahama's record. And you got to get on Tim Biaka Batuka, guys. They got this African guy on their mission. Tim Biaka Batuka. Okay, you guys think Wheatley's going to be running it. We got to stop this guy Biaka Batuka, guys.
Dude, wait, real quick. We were playing, this is a vivid memory. We were playing Utah State. It was our junior year, 94. It was late in the game. We kicked off, and he put like 5 backups in on a kickoff. And they ran it back on us. And I don't know if you guys remember that. Dude, they took it to the house. And I remember Skladany, and he was like, oh, shit. Oh, dude, he was running down the sidelines in like full panic mode. He's like, all right, let me put some guys in. And I remember that was just classic. I love Skladany.
Well, and that's the thing. That's what people don't remember about CSU back in the day. Why we were so good is because Garrett Sand, Kenya Ragsdale, Kareem Ingram, Sean Moran, Brady Smith, all these guys were on all these special teams.
Yeah.
We not only did we play defense, but we were on all the special teams because we cared about winning, and that's what it meant. And because we didn't have a whole lot of depth, we had some depth in some positions, as you all know very well. Right. But for what it's worth, the reason they moved me to defensive end is because when Kevin Lynch graduated, the backup was 178 pounds, and they were like, you're 240. We need you to move to defensive end. CSU was built, this whole program was built on guys that will do whatever it takes to play. So,
yes, sir.
He's your brother-in-law, right?
Kevin Lynch, yeah. We married to sisters.
Okay. I was trying to figure that out because I know we hung out the day that Fairchild was announced.
Yeah.
His party, and I was trying to figure out how the connection on that.
Yeah, no, Kevin Lynch and I are brother-in-laws. I was roommates with his younger brother, Scott Lynch, on our recruiting trip. And Scott was the best man at my wedding. And Scott's a good kid. And but Kevin and I are brother-in-laws now.
Talking about an athlete.
I know.
Right.
Talking about athlete.
Right.
Scott Lynch, boy. Hey.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We'll hit anything moving.
Wait, on the field or
I was talking on the field. I'll just leave off the field. Off the field.
Right.
So one question. Were you guys there for Tangs or Gators?
Gators. These guys are
both.
right in between both. Yeah.
Mitch,
Gators.
we're Tangs only, right?
Gators.
These young
Gators.
punks. These
Gators.
young punks only know Gators.
Tangerais.
Hey,
Gators. Mine are just Tangs.
There wasn't Tangerais as well.
Well, Tangerais and Tangs. That was there.
Gators is legendary.
But these young punks only know Tangs.
Right. All right, boys. This has been freaking awesome. T-Hill, Thrill Hill. I got to ask you, last thing. So you've been a part of this program for a long time as a player, coach, director of player development, recently let go, part of the business. Business sucks. But how hard is it, for me, I got to say, man, it sucks because I love watching you as a player. I was so happy when you came in as a coach for our program. But for you, what has it been like to go through the gauntlet of coaching changes, to be let go just in the last month or so, here as a longtime former student athlete and a longtime coach, player development?
It's hard, man. I mean, you know, especially when you came from where I come from, and you get with this group of guys, and you guys come together and you have something so special in '94. And like I said earlier in the interview, like I've been searching for that, whatever that thing was in '94 as a coach ever since. Like I've never found it again on any team. And it's hard to sit back and watch some things go on that you know are not right and that are not going to get us to where we want to be in the green and gold. And, you know, I've had to watch that, and it absolutely sucks to have to sit back and watch it and not have a voice to be able to say or do something about it. And so, you know, you sit back and you watch how leadership handles things, and you know, we've just put ourselves in a virtual cycle of 3 or 4 years of whatever, and then we're going to have to change and do something else. And that's because of leadership. And you know, I want us to be better. You know, I want us to be better than that. We are better than that. Our DNA tells us we're better than that. And you know, we're not putting people where they need to be in the right places to get the results that we should be getting. I mean, what is it, $240 million stadium, whatever it is. Got no excuse there, right? So we got everything we didn't have when I was coming through CSU, right? We got all the facilities, we got all the bells and whistles. Now what? I mean, we just gonna what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with all that? Because we went out there and won without anything. We had the worst facilities in the WAC, and that was bad.
Nothing.
We had nothing.
I remember Fred wrapping you guys up
yeah,
with
exactly.
nothing.
Exactly. I mean,
masking tape.
So it just, you know, when you look at all that stuff and you think about it, and like you said, I've been here long enough I know all the things that have gone on here that are problematic and, you know, that keep us in this cycle. And, you know, sadly, I don't have the confidence that we're going to come out of it because of leadership. We've got good enough players to get it done, but it's got to permeate from the top down. And until that happens, you know, sadly, we'll be spinning our wheels.
Yeah.
What's missing?
They've got to give a shit.
What's missing? What's missing, Anthony?
You know, I don't want to say specifically. I don't want to offend any of the current players, because like I said, that's not the issue in my estimation. You know, I think some things need to happen. And I'll just say this. I've told leadership to their face how I feel. So they know where I stand and what the deal is. I think when I'm ready to share all that, I definitely will. But right now, I'm not sure that is the right time for me to share it specifically. There's just too much going on in the world. It's just not as important right now. But there will come a time where, you know, the truth needs to be told, at least my truth. And, you know, people can take it for what it's worth. They can chew on it, but I'm, you know, I don't have any, at the end of the day, I'm green and gold through and through, just like all you guys on this call. And all I want is for us to win, get back to our ways of winning. And if people are not gonna get put in position where we can do that, it just pisses me off that I got to sit here and watch, you know, us be subpar with everything going for us. It's just bass backwards to me. So
I don't understand why there's a single Mountain West team that should be above us. We got We have more facility. I mean, we have more money, more facilities than any of them.
Yeah, which again, at the end of the day, goes to show you, it's not about all that, right? I mean, because back when we were over in Moby meeting, and people were meeting in the back of Moby Gym behind the rafters. You know, people are meeting in closets, basically. You know, it's not about any of that other stuff, man. We got to get back to all that stuff that Sean was saying earlier, man. It's guys that want to be here and are competitive as hell and won't take no for an answer. They're going to fight every day. I mean, we used to go out and I remember my senior year in '94, one-on-one period with so it'd be the quarterbacks and the receivers and the tight ends, and we'd be going against the DBs one-on-one every day. There was not one period that whole season where the period didn't end early because our guys started fighting each other. Because that's how competitive we were. You know, it was just, and we knew it. We loved it. We'd go in the locker room and we'd be laughing about it. You know what I mean? So it's that competitiveness that we got to have, man. Like, you know, that's what it's all about. And it starts from the top. So
Bowman tried to fight me back in the day.
Who did? Mo?
Bowman. July 4th party.
You were the only guy I was bigger than. That's about it.
Boy, and me too.
Maybe that was it. But July 4th, party at his house, rolled up in our bicycles. Him and Skipper came out, like, "What are you guys doing riding on our front lawn?" And then we got
that sounds about right.
It's all good after that.
Nice.
Yeah.
But Joel, when it's time, man, I'll come on with you and we can have a real talk.
Anytime, because you're one of my heroes of all time. All you guys have influenced me. And what I love about this is that you guys played 26, 27, 28 plus years ago. And you're all said, hey, man, and a lot of you guys played in the NFL. You got James Cregg coaching at LSU. Like, that's like a different world right now. All you guys that have played in the NFL, coached in these big-time environments, it's a different world. But you still think back to your playing days, and you love CSU. And that resonates with me because it's what I have. I mean, I grew up going to CSU, and I could have been at any other shitty university, or I could have been at CSU that had a shitty football program, and it was, and you guys transformed it. And I'm sitting here for the last almost 3 hours talking with you guys and listening to stories and listening to you guys answer these questions and talk about your passion for CSU. And I'm so honored that you've taken the time out of your night to do this. And I love it for CSU that we've got guys like you that are legends that still care. And I know not everything's perfect. I know that Anthony, you've had it disappoints you a lot, and it therefore disappoints me a lot because I love you as a player and a person. But CSU could be so special if we have the right people in place, we got the right players in place, and we put – I think that they're putting all the resources, the investments in place. Man, can you imagine, guys, if what they're doing now would have happened 25 years ago when you guys were playing, or right after you guys are playing with Sonny, if they could just put all this stuff in place with the new stadium, the indoor practice facility, this stuff.
We were Boise State before Boise State.
Yeah.
Right?
And then we stopped. We just didn't continue. But fellas, I know there's frustrations. I know that there's great memories, and I appreciate all of you. I can't thank you enough for all the memories that you guys provided for me and for fellow Ram fans. Anthony, I remember when I was a student, I felt so stupid because I walked up to you after a practice and I said, man, I got this picture of you, and I want to give it to my younger brother who's 8 years younger than me, who loves CSU because of me. and could you sign this for me? And I was like sheepish. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm going to ask my guy that's my age to sign an autograph. And you were like, yeah, man, anytime, anything you need. And you guys are the best. I love everything you've done. Yeah, I played baseball. Baseball, we sucked at baseball at CSU at the time. So, but,
so my big story is I was a junior in high school and I got a recruiting letter from CSU for baseball. And then they dropped the program two months later. And I was like, I understand why they dropped the program.
Yeah. When they started recruiting you, we were in big trouble. But boys, Garrett, thank you so much for rounding up these guys. Sean, thanks for cutting out of work. Adrian Ross, one of my favorites, man. Thanks for jumping on. Mitch, dude, you're a hero of mine. You played in the glory days. James Cregg.
We need to do like a 97 team.
Yeah, we do. James, when you guys win rings, isn't it cool when a school like LSU wins rings and you are cheering for them because you got a former Ram in the group?
Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah, congratulations on that, James. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, 100%, brother.
Hey, do you tell them CSU 1-0 against you guys?
Right.
You bring that up. You bring it up.
Too. I remember that game.
Right.
I played line in that game.
You tell Ed Ogeron, just say, hey, listen, man, last time we played LSU, we beat your ass down in Death Valley.
They already hit me
That's
up on
right,
that
Sean.
when I took the job. They interviewed me on that when I took the job here.
I know.
They said that was the bad
remember that day?
That's what, and that was.
Oh yeah, those were bad LSU days because they were like 2-9 that year, and we were 3-8, but we still beat them.
Leonis Brown tore it up.
Leonis.
80 yards, baby.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Stepped out of bounds about 3 times.
That was my first start in college. I remember that game.
I remember playing.
100%.
I played D tackle in that game.
Did you play D line?
Yeah.
Goal line package, right?
Ellers put me in.
Yeah. We beat them. What do we beat them? 14-10 in their house. It was a low scoring game.
17-14, something like that.
Yeah, it was low scoring. Yeah.
Back then, they'd have Mike the Tiger right outside our locker room. Old Mike would be out there, and they'd stick him, and you could hear him in the stands.
Right.
Multi-million-dollar
and all those guys in their, all those guys with their nipple rings and their shirtless overalls are yelling "Tiger bait, Tiger bait."
Reminds me of the Water Boy. It definitely reminds me of the Water Boy.
We put kitty litter all over D-wing for the guys when they got back. We were red shirts. It was me and Bowman, and remember Brady Smith was hurt. He was home with us.
Yeah.
All I remember is being on the offensive bus, and Steve Loney was passing a kidney stone at the end, and we just beat him. Dude, he's dying on the bus, and Earl Bruce just rips his ass, taking him to the hospital.
Did he make him run laps afterwards?
He's like, God damn it, Steve, you got to take care of yourself. That's bullshit.
He did.
Earl
Bruce did not like Steve Loney, apparently.
Oh, he loves him. He loves him.
He loved him. But he made him run a few times.
All right, fellas, this was so great.
He's like, "What the hell, Steve? Your guys is." No, go ahead.
No, man. Hey, Sean.
Bowman, let's grab some drinks sometime soon. I know we live close, so.
Yeah, you meet Rowe. Let's go to Castle Rock. We'll go to your hood. We'll find somewhere good down there.
Anywhere.
Hey, we can watch some CSU volleyball. That's the last time I hung out with you.
It's a volleyball school now.
We are.
Going.
Volleyball and hoops.
We are.
All right, boys. Thanks so much. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Seeing you guys.
Seeing
y'all. Good to hear from you guys.
Go Rams.
See you, brothers.
Hey, everybody take care and go Rams and
go Rams.
Don't be a stranger.
Go Rams.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care, guys.
T Hill. Later.
All right, later.
I don't know what these mimes are, but that was fun. See you,
That's
bro.
Anthony that's still on. Are you still on, Anthony?
Checking out.
See you, bro. I'll talk to you.
If I can figure it out.
Just hit the end button. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, you guys take care.
All right, bye.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Amazing. These guys are the best.
Amazing. That was awesome, dude. The whole from start to finish, that was awesome.
Yeah, those guys are they're what made CSU what it is today, and they care. What do you got?
Dude, I'm drinking straight up Macallan 12.
Dude, I'm spinning. I've been drinking vodka for 3 hours. It's 8 o'clock.
So this bottle was here when Tracy brought it down, and Garrett Sand was like, dude, that's a good woman. So
Right.
I had this much of Green Label 15.
That's impressive. That's
And
impressive.
2 beers. And 2 beers. God, dude, that was awesome.
Well, I
That
hope
was awesome.
I hope our fans love that, because that was 3 hours of awesomeness for me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
gotta go.
Yeah, I
My
saw your kid like earlier. So
well, he came in, but now it's my mom just turned 71
today.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I gotta
that's
go. I gotta go down to Castle Rock, down where Bowman lives, and drop off the president and hang out with her for a little bit. But thanks, bro. That was really cool.
Dude, awesome. All right, man.
All right, go Rams, brother. Bye.